He's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. A little programming note.
What is that?
Mayor Michelle Wu will be with us next Tuesday right here in the Boston Public Library. You can come in and ask her questions or text or call them. And the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, will be here a week from today. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Marjorie. I just want to add one thing. We have a new website as of last night. I think we flipped over at midnight. We're being told there's some listening issues. It's spotty. If it remains spotty, just go to youtube.com/GBH News, and you can check us out there. For the first time with us on Boston Public Radio, we're joined by Phil Eng. Phil is the General Manager and CEO of the T. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the time today to take calls, but we will read a couple of texts, and if you've got a question for the new GM of the T, text us at 877-301-8970, and we'll get to as many as we have time doing. But for now, we want to welcome the guy who is already known, from what I understand, as the Ted Lasso of public transportation in Massachusetts. Phil Eng. Phil, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Well, nice to meet you, Jim. Nice to meet you, Marjorie. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for coming in. But you know, I've got to ask. You've had great success in your career. You're running you're the president of the Long Island Railroad. You're interim president of New York City Transit. You've got a great pension. You've got a wonderful life. You know, the T has been the whipping boy here for about 20 years, or maybe 30 or 40 years. You know, runaway trains and people jumping off the Orange Line, et cetera, et cetera. Why'd you want to do this?
Well, you know, I had retired, and I had gone into private sector for 9 months.
Yeah.
And I look forward to continuing to serve public agencies in that role. But as I continued to read things about the challenges that were ongoing, you kind of get your mind thinking, how can you help them? First from the private side, but then the opportunity came up to take on the challenge and take ownership of the responsibility. And there's something about public service that, despite how challenging it can be, and maybe even initially you look at it and say, how can you accomplish that? The rewards are so phenomenal in terms of the importance to the public, importance to the workforce that rely on the management to guide and advise and direct. You know, so when the opportunity came up, it was something I spoke with my family about, and sure enough, they gave me an opportunity to jump back into public service.
Well,
I'm really proud to do that.
I think we can all agree that if you can fix the MBTA in Boston, you're going to go down in the Mass Transit Hall of Fame, Guinness Book of World Records, all those kinds of things.
You know, by the way, we should also say, so you're not defensive, we like masochists on this show, so we don't have a problem with that. You know, through the days, I was looking at some of the old texts and emails we get about the T on a bad day, and I was trying to figure out what is the most common question or concern, the least we get, which is obviously anecdotal as opposed to what you do. It's the slow zone thing. And when I listened to an interview you did on BUR a couple of days ago and read things, it seems that even though you're a transparent kind of guy, Phil Eng, that you're reluctant to say, here's the date by which our plan has an end to slow zones. Isn't that something you think the riding public, or hopefully the wannabe riding public, is entitled to?
Well, you know what? It comes across as, if it came across as reluctance, it wasn't meant to be that way. What the challenge that we have with providing a definitive schedule moving forward is that the slow zones are a moving target in some respects, right? We'll continue to do inspections, which we have to do, and as we identify conditions, we want to make sure they're incorporated. But also, there's other types of things that affect our scheduling with regards to the amount of work we do, and that's reviewing, even if we have a schedule laid out in our mindset, it's looking ahead. Are we doing that on straight overnights? Are we doing that on extended hours? Or are we doing that on weekends? Or are we doing that like on a 12-day surge like we did at the Packett's Corner? So those things are constantly being discussed as we're approaching different sections. And I think a lot of it has to do with how much work needs to be done within that area and what is the least impactful and provides the most benefit to our riders in those corridors.
So considering those variables, Phil Eng, and I totally understand them, can you not give us at least a range that if it turns out you're doing overnight things where there's the most intense focus in the shortest period of time, it's likely to take X months. If it turns out you do it on a less intense schedule for a variety of reasons, less interference with the daily ridership, that sort of thing, it takes Y number of months. Is that, I assume in your head you have those numbers, don't you?
Yes, and we are working on putting together that type of higher level schedule on when we anticipate to get the different sections within the corridors. And that's something that we're working hard on to make sure we are more transparent, because it's not that we don't want to share this information, is we want to make sure that when we're sharing it, we have enough information for the folks that we're talking to, the businesses, the riders, that we're not disrupting their plans in advance before we have it a little more baked.
So one last question. So to be clear, you have the dates in your head. You're just not comfortable sharing them? Is that an accurate statement at this time?
We have general ideas of when we're tackling things. Right now, as we identify locations, for instance, we are focused on a lot of areas on the Red Line. The Red Line has a lot of delays, has a lot of areas where we need to improve upon. But we also want to make sure, like when we had to pivot, when we had the unfortunate derailment at Packett's Corner, right? We had to make a decision not only to address the immediate need, the emergency response, which we did. Even that work took away from planned work, because now the workforce that was going to do other things is focusing on restoring service and restoring it safely. But then we decided to make the right decision to accelerate that work. So that also affects those schedules. And those are the kinds of things where it is a fluid plan, and we need to be ready to pivot, making sure that we are tackling the conditions that we feel if we leave too long are going to impact further down the road.
But internally, I don't mean to belabor this last thing on this, but internally, at least in terms of your planning, you and your team have a pretty good idea what that timeline is.
I wouldn't say the timeline. I would say when we're looking at tackling these things, the speed restrictions are things that are in place throughout the system. And when things are running well, you might not even notice there's a speed restriction on the line. Right now, the disinvestment that has happened over the years that got us to this point is, I think, why there's so much attention to it, because it is not just a Red Line, but we have it on other corridors.
You know what I've always wondered? Are we the worst in the country at this particular juncture? I mean, is there any place that's like us, or are there other places that are worse than us, or is it unusual? I mean, we've all gone to New York, most of us. The T goes really fast in New York, even though it has its problems too. Where does Boston rank?
No, we're not worse in the country. I think what it is the importance of the T to the public, which is why there's so much attention to it, which is why I took on this role. Why the administration has given us the support and leadership that we need to make the changes that the public expects. If you go and you look across the country, and you'll see that a lot of the agencies have faced similar things. Not only from the hiring and retention, that's even in the private sector, but you'll also see that they have gone through periods of lack of investment, system safety, system reliability. But that doesn't mean we cannot turn this place around.
So who has the worst system right now in the whole country? Do you think it's Chicago, Philadelphia?
I wouldn't even touch that question.
Okay, well, you're speaking about... You're speaking about... I'm just wondering if some of this is worse than us. You're speaking about hiring and retention. I know that there's a new contract now, 18% wage increase over 4 years. Maintenance workers, bus drivers, train drivers. For a while, the T was doing something really weird, which is have bus drivers be hired in a part-time schedule when they first came in. That's gone now, right? They're going to be hired in a full-time schedule when they first come in, the bus drivers, right?
Well, this contract allows us to have both full-time positions and part-time positions, which is important, because the more part-time applicants we have, and some people need that part-time status, what we want is to have flexibility for anybody interested in performing work.
But if they want full-time, they don't have to wait.
Yes, they do not have to wait.
Okay. But even with that, there's a problem with attrition, people leaving. So what do you think that's about? They're just...
Well, public service is, I think you opened up, it is a tough business to be in public service, right? Everybody depends on us.
Bless you.
And every day we're judged by our daily performance, right? Being a bus driver, being a motor person, those are challenging jobs. Imagine trying to operate a bus in a city as dense as this with the amount of traffic. But what we've done is the contract has incentives for retention to encourage people to stay. It has incentives for people that have stayed longer, longevity payments. So a lot of the things that we've seen over the course of this year, and we have record hiring so far, but the challenges in terms of getting to where we want to be have been addressed, a lot of them in this contract. Retention, incentive, starting salary for some of our key positions, the bus operators, motor persons, rail repairers, and track workers. All of those positions are the foundation of the success. They fill and feed the promotional positions that we need to move into supervisory positions and further up. So we're working on workforce hiring, but working on workforce growth and succession planning. And all of that obviously takes time, but we are doing it at a pace, and with the administration's support in the budget, that gives us the ability for bonuses, the salary contract that we negotiated.
That's a $20 million thing you're talking about? Or what
Well, that is included in the budget now, and that gave us the ability to really tackle some of those challenges that we've had to date, knowing that those funds were part of the budget.
Do you know, I wondered, one of the stories I read in anticipation of speaking with you today talked about the high cost of living in Boston. I mean, that's going to be an issue, too, for people that may not be able to get anything within Boston, rent or buying, because it's so expensive. They may have to come in from, I don't know, Brockton or Fall River or something.
Well, and that's part of the reason we had to take a hard look at this contract, right? For prior to this contract, a lot of folks had to almost take a pay cut to come and be a bus operator, just as an example. And imagine the challenge now with all the rising costs of living and housing and food costs, just taking care of your family. That's a tough thing to ask people to do.
Yeah.
This contract now puts us on par with a lot of private sector entities that we are competing against. And the one beautiful thing that has come out of this right now, in the first 10 days of August, we have seen a 129% increase in the applications for bus operators.
Wow.
Nearly 400 applications to date in August.
But, at the same time, I mean, to follow up on what Marjorie said, the most recent numbers I saw, maybe it was actually this morning at State House News Services, something. Since the beginning of the year, you've hired 782 people, you lost 475. It's a net of 300 or something. That's going to take, at that rate, it's going to take a hell of a long time to get to your goal, but I guess your position is the changes you've made in the interim are going to speed that process?
Yes. If we did not have this contract and we continued on the same path, which is actually record hiring for us, right? We would have still hired probably about 1,500 new employees this year without any changes,
Understood.
right? The attrition, and you look at every public sector agency, it ebbs and flows, right? You do this tremendous hiring, and then when they reach eligible point, they're all walking out the door at the same time. So what we're going to do is not only bring the workforce back to where it needs to be, but we're not going to pause there. We're going to continue to make sure that we have the robust hiring annually, and then this way, somewhere down the road, 20, 30 years, we are making sure that we have kept our workforce.
Are you as calm as
strong.
you appear to be, or what's your real deal with you?
He's got to be
I'm
calm.
serious.
Otherwise, he'd be pulling his hair out.
You look totally calm in what has got to be a really difficult daily task. Are you? Or
you know what? I think you need to have that internal tension that keeps you driving, right? A little uncomfortable in order to be able to make change. At the same time, we need to keep our focus on the challenge at hand, because I think if we're running around in a mode where we don't have things under control, it just spirals out of.
That's what Marjorie and I do every day, by the way. Running around with things pretty much out of control,
out of
and then
control.
2 o'clock comes and we go home.
Yeah,
So we're talking to Phil Eng, by the way, the new general manager of the T.
Yes, Phil, you just mentioned an eligible point where people may leave, and one of the standing jokes about the T, you probably heard this before, it used to be like 23 years and out. You get in at 18, you can retire at 42 and get a pension. That's changed now, I understand. So how long do you have to work at the T before you can leave with a nice pension?
Well, I think what you have to do is reach a certain number of years,
Yep.
But also the age requirement. But that's something that's happening across a lot of public agencies, right? But I think what you need to do is focus on the public service component of the T, the ability to know that you're contributing to your communities that you live in, where your family and friends live, and your neighbors. But there's the other part. There are some significant benefits as part of being here. We have great health benefits. One of the things I'm focusing on is the career path that you can have at all entry levels and work your way through the system. You don't necessarily have to have a degree in something to excel. It's the operation component of being a bus operator, a motor person. Back in my previous job, a key person that I relied on heavily started out as a car cleaner.
Really?
And worked his way up the career ladder. A lot of people do that. And that's where it's up for myself and my management team to make sure that we are helping people along the way, because there's so many people that are looking to make those career advancements at the T.
Phil Eng, a minute ago, you didn't want to answer Marjorie's question. I don't blame you, but what's the worst subway in the country? What's the best? What's the model where, you say to yourself, I want to be like that system by the time my days are through here?
I know a lot of people compare us to systems across the seas, but I think what I also say is you really cannot compare what our T system is like. It's the oldest system in the U.S., right? And if you were designing a brand new system today, you wouldn't have the geometric curves and things of that nature that are inherent to the system.
Like at Park Street you're talking about, right?
But that gives us the character that we have, right? It's the same thing from my prior job at Long Island Railroad. You have 10 of 11 main branches all merging in one location. Imagine if something happens at one location, it affects 10 branches. You wouldn't design it that way. But the effort that goes into the day-to-day operations, you'd be amazed what our dispatchers are doing, what the folks are doing to be able to deliver day-to-day service. And people take a lot of pride in that. And so when you look at the complexities that we have, I think that's something we should be very proud of. The fact that we do deliver the service we do under these environments where you would not design it this way if you had the ability to start over.
So what's an old system? I mean, the Metro, for example, in D.C. is relatively new. What's an old system, not unlike ours in terms of age, that you think has made the most progress from its low point that we might look to as a model? Is there such a place?
You know, I wouldn't look at each system. I would look at the ability to turn the systems around. You know, when I was at New York City Transit back in 2017, there were a lot of challenges there with regards to similar things: service, reliability, safety. And with an investment into the system, acceleration of work, reliability went up. Same thing at Long Island Railroad. Right, when I took over there in 2018, it was the same kind of thing where the public had lost faith in the system, and in 4 years turned it around and made it the best running on-time performance in its history. And we could do that here. We are making strides. I know it's not as fast as we all would like to do, but we are making forward progress.
And when you say people lose faith in the system, do they lose faith in the time, the reliability of the times, or I mean, what are the factors that cause people to say, I'm not going to bother anymore?
I think it has to do with knowing that when you walk to that station or when you get to that station, that train or that bus or that ferry will be there.
Yeah.
And then knowing that that travel time is reliable, right? In every system that I've worked in, the public acknowledges in an open system and open to the environment, weather, they know things happen. But what we need to do is get it back to where it is on a daily basis running reliably the way our service schedules show. But then also know that we are building towards a better future, that we will restore more service when we can, and we will make sure that it's safe, it's reliable, and people can take pride in it, because it's the same thing. I always talk about our stations as being like our living room. When you invite people to your home, you want them to feel good, right? So I want that the same thing with our stations, that when people come to our stations, when they have family and friends visiting, they want to say, let's take the tea, because that's the best way to go.
A couple of things, playing off what you said when Marty said, you mentioned the historic divestment in the system. We've talked about that ad nauseum for probably the whole 25 years we've been on the air. The two co-chairs of the Legislature's Transportation Committee were with us a couple of weeks ago, Phil Eng, and Bill Strauss, who's the House Chair, had this to say about an oversight hearing in which you had appeared a few weeks or days earlier. Here's Strauss.
Do you have available to you right now, I asked Mr. Eng, the funding you need to carry out both your operational and safety and capital needs? And he said, yes, but in the future, we will need more.
Do you have enough money?
Do I have enough money? You know, we always need more funding. The challenge is, whatever you have, how do you put that to best use? Even in good times, there's always a need to do more projects. There's always a need to invest further. My challenge right now is to make sure that every dollar that I have, I'm putting to best use. And that means taking a look at our capital projects. How do we start delivering them on time and on budget? This way the public knows that if we are asking for funds, it's being best spent, and we're not misusing those funds, right?
Could you speed up the whole process that you're engaged in to fix this, the mess you were handed, if the legislature had appropriated more money for you now, not in the future?
Well, I would say this too, right? How do you balance the amount of work that you need to do and balance the ability to provide service, right? So you have to also realize, if we had every penny that we're asked for or think we need, you would not be able to do every project on year one, right? You would have to still lay out a strategy to get the service back to safe, reliable, and robust, where the people are enjoying it. But then you also have to make sure you're continuing to move those projects that are building towards the future, because one thing has to supplement the other thing. Safe, reliable service gives me the ability to say, let's do these other projects, right? And at the same time, those other projects do facilitate the ability to maintain and run a system.
You know, speaking of safe, one of the things, this came before you, obviously, but the
Cash room?
No, we'll get to this is much more serious. The death of David Jones. Everybody remembers falling through the broken stairways at UMass JFK Station. What was almost as disturbing as the death itself of Mr. Jones was to read not too long after that the MBTA knew that there were major structural difficulties there and other places, and for whatever reason hadn't attended to them. Can you say today, Phil Eng, and wherever we are, August something or other, the 11th, that there are no similar situations that could lead to similarly disastrous outcomes somewhere in the system?
Well, I will say this. The need to pay attention to our system has been top of my priority, right? Not only the speed restrictions, track, signal, power that allows us to run daily service, but the ability to make sure that our stations and our facilities where we're asking people to come in is a priority. That's why I made sure, one of the things I noticed is that I want to have someone who's responsible, single point of accountability. The chief of stations, proud to say that accepted the role and will be starting on August the 28th. That doesn't mean that we're not continuing right now to take a look at all those types of elements within our stations that we need to make sure we're addressing. And
are you able to assure, though, that there are no situations today like what existed at UMass JFK on the day that David Jones died?
I would say our system is safe. I use the system every day. My family uses the system every day. We are paying attention to those things, but we are going to accelerate our inspections, and we're going to find those capital dollars to address them more timely if the situation arises. Those types of situations are unfortunate, and I don't want to comment too much on something that happened prior. All I know is moving forward, those are the types of things that we are going to be proactive with, ensuring that we have responsible, accountable employees, but also giving them the tools to be successful. I think that goes hand in hand with responsibility.
You know, I think it was called the Second Avenue train, the new train in New York City. Is that what it's called?
Second Avenue subway, yeah.
So you go to the regular subway, and then you go to this new, relatively new Second Avenue subway, and it's unbelievable how gorgeous it is and how gorgeous the trains are. That was billions and billions of dollars. So it gives you sort of an idea of how expensive it is to create a state-of-the-art subway now. So we're never really going to have that here.
I would not say we will never have that. I think what we need to do is take a look at the needs, and we need to prioritize how we address our stations, right? You can go in and we could renew, we can make them accessible, and we're going to be looking at a capital program in addition to the one that's just approved as we look beyond that to make sure that folks know that we are focused on those things. Now, does that mean there are future expansion projects down the road? I don't think I would ever say no to anything.
Yeah.
I think what we need to do is make sure we focus on our needs today. Let's make sure that the system and the stations that we have today are what people expect and deserve. But keep an eye on future development, because one of the things that I know is very important to us and the quality of life is the potential for development around our stations, whether it's businesses and housing. And those are the things that I enjoyed doing in my prior role. And Second Avenue subway was a very good example, because when that opened up, that whole corridor above, the dynamics changed there. So we have that opportunity here. And one of the things I intend to do is to get out and meet the different communities, different delegations, to see what are their priorities, what kind of development is there, and be at the beginning of the discussion versus after development decisions have been made. Because I've seen where development is built, and then they expect the service that we had not had those discussions with. So being there at the forefront, I think facilitates development interest, and allows us to be more prepared to provide that level of service that people need.
Where'd you get that? You got a very snazzy-looking T-pin.
He's head of the team, Marjorie.
I know, but I'm
I
wondering,
mean?
was that a special present for you? Or can we get them for the station? Or?
I'll get a pin for both of you. Yes, they gave it to me on day one.
They did. It was very nice.
It. And I wear it every day.
Although I don't know if you'd want to necessarily, if you were a regular Joe or Jane, I don't know if you'd want to wear a T-pin yet.
Yes, you will. You will take the same pride that I take in our system. I guarantee it.
Okay.
Should I guarantee it? I do guarantee it.
Phil Eng, can we have a behavioral question that I assume concerns you? It's playing off something Marjorie asked. By the way, mountains of people are saying the audio streaming's not working. I'm about to tell you to go to YouTube, but then I realize if the streaming's not working, you probably can't hear. Oh, it's working now? Oh, it's... YouTube is working.
I think
of course,
our app is not working.
They probably can't hear us when we say, in any case, go to youtube.com/GBH News. We hope you hear us. In any case, a behavioral question. I'm a creature of habit. I think a lot of people are. And when, 59% or 60% of the people who are riding the T pre-pandemic have come back, that's close, right?
Yes, the numbers continue to get a little better, though.
Okay,
I
great.
think as service improves, we will see people come
But
back.
how do you worry about people, that's why I said creature of habit thing. People get locked into behaviors. They say, well, that's even a greater reason for me to do hybrid work than even before. It's even a better reason for me to drive my gas-guzzling car down the turnpike. Are you thinking ahead as you continue to make improvements and hopefully do the same kind of turnaround here you did at the LIRR about how do you message, I hate that verb, how do you communicate to the public that the system you thought was going to be that way forever is not that way now, and it's inviting you back? What do you do to get people to break their non-T habits in a year or 6 months or 2 years, whenever it is? You know what I mean?
Well, you know what? Things have changed, obviously, with the pandemic. The ability for people to work remotely has affected not only the T, but a lot of commuter rail services and subway services. But that's not necessarily, maybe from a ridership perspective, it has impacted our revenue, but I think from a quality of life perspective, people are able to balance those needs. What I would like to say, though, is that flexibility you have in your office environment, take advantage of it, right? Ride the T during different times of the day where perhaps it's not as crowded. Ride the T to go to your favorite restaurant. Ride the T to go see different cultural events that the great Commonwealth has to offer. Because it's not just about commuting in the morning and commuting back home at the end of the day. I saw those things changing. Having said that, we also know that we have a lot of essential workers that have to rely on public transit, and that's why it's important for us to continue to deliver those levels of service. But then how do we have folks take advantage of weekends and evenings and midday? You know, so those are the things where I welcome that challenge, and I really do know that there are so many places that people can enjoy taking the T. I firmly believe that today's youth are more transit-oriented than folks of my generation. And that's something else that is, I think, going to really help us thrive moving forward.
There are a bunch of texters who have a similar question to David from Arlington, who texted in, what's going on with the red line? Feels like the line north of Park Street has been left out to dry. Last I checked, it takes about 40 minutes to go from Alewife to Park Street. It's been bad enough that it's quicker for me to take the bus into work, even with traffic.
It's not that it's been left out to dry. We are continuously looking at our resources to accomplish the work, working with our FTA partners, DPU. One of the other components is to make sure that we plan the work in a manner that our workforce and the resources we have can do it safely. So that has been something that I think has also been highly publicized, the ability for us to accomplish a lot of work that we need to do, but make sure we're doing it in a manner that we're protecting the workforce too, because they are just as important to us as protecting the public. If we protect the workforce, we can better deliver for the public, and those improvements will come.
Well, you know, speaking of protecting the workforce, I thought it was very unusual that the Federal Transportation Administration would come in and look at the T and really say that heretofore, this before you came, but that we were not protecting the workforce. Is that unusual too? I mean, I think it is to have a federal agency crack down on a state's or city's MBTA system.
That has happened before. I mean, in D.C., there's an oversight agency helping them. They're a little further along. Those challenges came up sooner than us. But even when they don't come on and take over the oversight as they've done to this level, they're always playing a role with the regulations and making sure that agencies have policies and procedures in place, but then also that we're following them, right? So that's an important role they play. I don't have any concerns. If they're bringing extra resources to help make sure that our employees are safe and our work is being done properly, I welcome that. But it's not unusual necessarily. Maybe the amount of things that were brought up in the SMI report last year. But this is about improving us not only today, but long term. And that's the key to one of the reasons I wanted to come back, right? How do we set the T and the workforce up for success well beyond whatever time frames I have.
Phil Eng, you've been very generous with your time. One last question. I'm just looking through the text. It seems to be a common one. I think we've had pilots in the past, obviously prior to you, about late-night T service. You expressed concern about workers who have no choice, and often it's low-income workers, as you know, I'm sure from New York City, too, who are working the most odd kinds of extreme hours. Is that something in your thoughts and plans? I know you're focused on what is first, but is that something you're contemplating internally?
Well, you know what? I would say this. The amount of work that we need to do right now, the ability to get in and do even regular overnight work is important, extended hours. But certainly as we improve things in the future, I think there's nothing that would be off the table, but really what we need to do is make sure the service we're running today is safe, reliable. I certainly understand the need for people to have access to transportation 24/7. A lot of roles rely on the ability to get into a system earlier than we have right now.
Very quickly, I said it was last. This is really the last. How do you feel about Michelle Wu's push for free public transit?
You know, public transit and the affordability of it is something that's on my mind. I think that gets to the intention of me trying to figure out how do we make sure we continue to deliver service as efficiently and safely as possible. But that's a much bigger discussion right now, right? Obviously, the revenue that we receive is important to our operating dollars.
Sure.
Bringing riders back is important, and not funding it strictly on the riders back because it has to be affordable. We are piloting a few things, as you mentioned.
Sure.
Right? The mayor has supported us with some bus money to provide free buses, and in support of some of the tunnel, we are running some free service as well. The Blue Line has been a good example for us to understand if you had free service, you know, what kind of impacts you have and what will people gravitate to. So we're learning about that, and I think that's all going to be part of a bigger discussion down in the future. But affordability of the system and safety, reliability are top of my priorities right now.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Really
It is a
glad
pleasure
you
to
were very
meet-
generous with your time. We hope you'll come back soon.
I know. I feel much better after talking with Philip Eng than I did before. I can't quite say I'm in the Ted Lasso category, but I'm very happy to meet you and very impressed. Philip Eng is General Manager and CEO of the MBTA, and he's going to try to fix things around here. We're really rooting for you because heaven knows we need a lot of fixing.
Welcome to town. We're
Yes.
glad to have
Thank
you. Thanks so much.
And Ted Lasso may only be 3 seasons. I hope I have more than that.
Thank
That's
you.
right. That's right. I want to tell people gbhnews.org audio stream is back. YouTube has worked apparently the whole time.
Yep.
And so is 89.7 FM, so you can get the gbhnews.org audio stream back. Thank you so
Thanks
much
again,
for
Phil. We
coming in.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
Phil,
Ted. Thank
we
you,
really
Marjorie.
appreciate it. Okay, after a quick break, we're going to open the phone and text lines to ask you about the MBTA. We're very grateful for Mr. Eng's time and very impressed by what he had to say. He's clearly equipped for the job. But some of us are still a little skeptical. If you were to place a bet on when slow zones would be lifted, if a smug mug were on the line, do you think you could get it right? Maybe never? If you were to place a bet on when the MBTA will run like you want it to, what do you think about that? We'll open the phone lines and text lines, 877-301-8970. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Brady and Marjorie. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News, gbhnews.org. Audio stream is back up. Our apologies, everything is fixed. Next Tuesday at the library, Mayor Wu will be here for an hour for Ask the Mayor. Next Friday at the library, the Attorney General will be here, Andrea Campbell, for Ask the Attorney General. So if you just tuned in, you missed BPR's first interview with the new general manager of the T, Phil Eng. I have to say, Marjorie, I don't want to speak for you. I was pretty impressed.
Very impressive.
I feel a little more optimistic.
Yep.
He obviously knows what he's doing. He's got a very good track record. And you really can't blame the mess of our transit system on him, considering he's been in the job about 10 minutes. I mean, he's been here since April or something. But we want to know if, in general, you're optimistic about the future of the T. If you're not, are you more optimistic after listening to a half hour of General Manager Eng? How long do you think it's going to take to get the T really back on track? Some think it's like asking how long it will take Sisyphus to roll the boulder up a hill. Others do not. If you can guess accurately, we're going to write all these down. If you can guess accurately how long it's going to be before Mr. Eng declares the T fixed, you'll be awarded, and this is something in great demand, the Boston Public Radio Smug Mug. 877-301-8097. You know, what I asked him at the end, I think is a really critical thing, is how do you ever, when there's so much negativity for so long, how do you convince the public, assuming he's able to do what he really did do at the Long Island Railroad, a huge turnaround, times of on time and all that sort of stuff. How do you convince people ever that it's safe and efficient and timely to ride the T? What do you do?
I think the beauty for Mr. Eng is that there's no place to go but up.
That's a very good point.
You know, it can't get much worse than this. You know, we can all remember.
Well, actually, the woman that dove into the Mystic, that was going down. That was
going down.
the place.
We've been going down for quite some time.
We have, that's a good
I mean, we
point.
all remember 2015, the big snowstorms when Charlie Baker first came into office. And of course, all these great pictures in the Globe where the Red Line train stopped and people from the T getting
like the
off
Long March.
and trudging through snow.
But that's not that wasn't
up to their
T's
waist.
fault.
Then there was, of course, the fire on the Orange Light. You mentioned the woman that jumped into the Mystic. Then there was the escalator going backwards. Was that in Park Street where all the people fell backwards down the escalator?
It was.
We had somebody,
that wasn't his fault either.
It wasn't his fault either.
No.
But somebody just texted and wanted to know why does it take weeks to fix the Aquarium Blue Line escalator? The escalator seems to be not working there, and the elevator isn't working either.
it's got a lot
And
of
this
work.
person says they have difficulty walking down the stairs, and no escalators or elevator doesn't help me. That's the Aquarium Blue Line. And then you had one of my favorite stories is the driver of the Red Line that get out. I guess you had to stop at certain places. You're supposed to do some fooling around with the train or the brake or something like
whatever.
that. The guy gets off the train.
Didn't get
but he
back
had
on?
kind of a jury rig system, so he's off fixing what he was supposed to fix,
happened?
and the Red Line takes
took
off.
off?
And the people are driving along, and they're saying they're waiting to get to the JFK station, and the train keeps going, and they're thinking, wow, that's kind of weird. They get to the next station, then they realize there's
no driver.
Can you imagine being on the
That's the
train
problem.
and realizing
That's
as
not
you
Phil
barrel
Eng's
along-
fault either, by the
None
way.
of that is Phil.
No,
And
it
then
isn't.
my favorite story of all
Oh, my
about
God.
the MBJ is the cash room.
Yeah.
Remember this?
No.
This is a place.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
of course I do.
Okay, this was a place in Charlestown, which
Yep.
used to have kind of a bad reputation in
Not
terms
anymore.
of crime and that
Nope,
stuff, but
not
it's
anymore.
cleaned things up over
Sure
in
has,
Charlestown.
yep.
But at the time, this wasn't that long ago, actually. It was
No.
2016.
No, it wasn't,
Yeah.
was it?
There was the cash room was a place where T workers counted $200 million in cash every year. They counted,
Wow,
but there
that's
was
impressive.
absolutely no accountability.
No, why should
People
there
could
be?
stroll in and out of there. It was
Take
open
what you
to
need.
vendors. It was open to people's friends.
Why not?
They had barbecues in the back there. They would wear shorts and flip-flops
I
to work.
remember that, yeah.
And people had,
What's your point exactly?
Well, the point is that, when you get $200 million in cash coming in a year, and it turns out $100 million of that, they weren't sure what happened to it.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of
That's a
things.
problem.
You go to work every day at a cash room, and you walk out at the end of the day, and maybe you slip a little extra cash into your pockets. These kinds of things, we hope, don't happen anymore. They did clean that up.
Oh, they did?
They decided it would be a good idea. The
Okay,
T
good.
did after all these stories in the
Okay.
newspaper, that what they needed was cash management.
Okay, why don't you answer the
Professionals
question?
instead of a bunch of guys in shorts
fine.
and flip-flops.
Okay, fine.
having
Barbecuing in the back. Okay, so why don't you answer our question first, then we'll get to the calls.
Yeah.
In terms of when do you think Phil Eng will make an announcement, I assume with Mayor Wu standing to his right, Governor Healy standing to his left, or maybe the next governor and the next mayor, whatever it is, saying we can say to you, on time, safe, everything is ready. When do you think that'll be?
Well,
You can win an Egan and Browdy Boston Public Radio mug, by the way.
okay,
Smug
I'm
mug.
going to say
Yeah?
that I think it's 2023, right? I think
Oh.
the slow zones will end in the winter of 2024.
Yeah, that's based
And
on what?
based on just talking to Philip Eng for a few minutes, I was very impressed by
what
him.
else?
And that maybe 2 years from now, in 2025, we can say, it's not so bad to take the T. As one of our texters points out, we have an MBTA leader who's an engineer, who's already run a railroad, not a politically connected MBA bean counter. We need an engineer.
Well, he has a track record. He's got, so to speak.
That's
I
right.
didn't mean that as a pun,
track
but it is a
That's
good
right.
pun.
Well, it is a good pun.
By the way, the other question is, now Marjorie's optimistic. She thinks the slow zones will be fixed by 2023.
2024.
Whatever.
Winter of 2024.
Other people are citing the greatest New Yorker cartoon ever, which said, how's never is never good for you. 877-301-8970. Where do you want to go, Marjorie?
Let's start with Bob in Georgetown. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Bob, what's going on?
Hey, good morning.
To you.
Great show.
Thanks.
Phil Eng is an impressive guy.
I think he is, too.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Long Island Railroad is real nice. When we talk about getting the T back to a standard, I think we've got to make sure that we don't set our bar too low. The T, seriously, we get it back to what, a 1975 standard?
Yeah.
We're 23 years into the 21st century.
We are.
We've got to look at some of the things that frankly, the Transit Matters is putting forward. Regional Rail.
Fabulous organization, yep.
Fabulous organization.
Okay.
North-South Rail Link. Connecting the western part of Massachusetts to Boston.
Yeah.
So that's really my point, is that it's going to get better, but it's still going to stink.
Okay, Bob, it's still going to stink. That's a rotten attitude. Now, Bob, if you want to win, and everybody wants to win, and BPR's smug mug, let's just stay with the slow zones. When do you predict these slow zones will be eliminated? What's the date, Bob?
God, I want a smug mug. Shoot.
Okay.
Okay. It's going to be in
Go ahead.
September of 2028.
Oh, that's not bad. It's only 5 years.
Of 2020.
Write that down. We'll all be dead by then. That'll be good. September, Bob from Georgetown, September of 2028. Bob, good luck. We hope you win we hope you don't win the mug, considering you guessed 2028. Whatever. Goodbye, Bob. Thank you for the call. 877-301-8970.
Sam from Fairhaven was not impressed.
What did he say?
He says, our questions were fine, but he thought that Philip Eng was too vague and evasive. He said he's going to withhold judgment and hopes he's effective in doing his job and making real progress towards improving the service, but he's just not sure. I think this is a good opportunity we have before. No jokes about this. Remember who was the hot ticket that ran the T for about 2 weeks?
Oh, Beverly.
Talking about this wasn't her first rodeo.
What was Beverly's last name? So
I don't
not
know.
her first rodeo. Beverly Scott was that her
Beverly
last name?
Scott, that's right. She didn't last long.
No,
she
she
came and
didn't.
she disappeared really quickly. And there have been other people running the T. Steve Poftak, lots of people think Jim Aloisi thought he was pretty good, didn't he? And the guy that was running the T in the interim, he thought he was pretty good too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have confidence in because of the track record and because
Marjorie,
he is an
we've been
engineer.
have the exact same interviews with analysts of the T and leaders of the T for 25 years. I mean, it is like deja vu all over again. And by the way, I mean, the thing that Eng brings, beyond the fact he seems like a pretty honest, I wish he had answered the question about a timeline for a slow zone elimination, because you can hold somebody accountable when they do that. He says he doesn't have a precise timeline. I believe him if he says
that's why it takes
that's
40
the
minutes
case.
to get from Alewife to
Well,
Park
that's right,
Street on
exactly.
the
It's
red
a slow
line.
zone kind of thing. But wouldn't
and
you
some
feel
places
better?
they're going 6 miles an
But
hour.
isn't the only way you
It's
can
not too
judge
fast.
someone and hold them accountable is if you do have a timeline where you're able to say, the head of the T said that by September of next year, the slow zones will be eliminated. We keep gauging the progress to that point. And I'm a little disappointed, even though, again, I'm sure he's telling the truth
But
when he says they don't have a timeline
I can
yet.
see why he can't, because he hasn't been here that long, and I think the problems in the T are so entrenched that it takes a while to figure out exactly how to solve some of these difficulties. I mean, when you think about
Well, he did
this,
it at the Long Island Railroad. He knows how to run a railroad.
you know what's so weird about the T, though?
No.
Why would you ever think that you could hire bus drivers when you weren't paying them very much
Part-time.
money,
That's a great
and you
point.
made them work
Excellent
part-time
point.
for the first, was it 4 months or 6 months or
I don't
3?
know.
It was a long time.
Long time.
And they wonder why they couldn't hire bus
No.
drivers. That went on for ages.
Ages.
And it takes a new person to really realize what a disaster that is.
So here's the Washington Post from, remember the snow that Marjorie mentioned? I think it was February of 2015. Beverly Scott, known to most as Bev, gave a fiery performance at a news conference on Tuesday where she suggested, quote, that God Jr. would have been hard-pressed to keep the T's old rail cars running in so much snow. You know what we also had to bring up to him? Is that Springfield company, the China-owned company.
Oh, yeah.
The red and the orange lines, they are like years and years and years behind delivery of the full slate of new cars.
Deval Patrick went for the low bidder. Sometimes you're better not going for the low bidder because it seems like they had a little difficulty making the trains. It seemed like they were hard-pressed to produce the red and orange line trains.
Okay, so here's the deal. Before you go to the next call, here's the deal if you just tuned in. If you accurately guess, we're writing down all the guesses from text and phones, the date by which the slow zones are eliminated, you'll be the recipient of one of the most valued swag in the industry. That would be the BPR Smug Mug. Go ahead, Marjorie.
Okay, let's go to Sandy in Andover.
Hello,
Thank
Sandy.
you for calling.
Sandy. Okay. I think she thinks we called her. Okay, let's try.
One person is guessing here. This is Dave from New Hampshire.
What do you say?
The year is 2073.
Yeah.
They were so close to removing the slow zones until the entire city of Boston sunk beneath the waves.
Well, that's another problem, but that's not his dealing, by the way. That's
not his dealing.
secretariat.
But just as a quick aside, if you ever take Amtrak to New York, as I'm sure many people have done, the tracks are so close to the water in whole sections.
Yeah.
I mean, are they planning ahead for this?
No.
Because pretty soon the tracks aren't going to be underwater all the time.
Exactly.
Okay, Matt in Somerville. What do you think, Matt?
You're a little negative today, I should say. Go ahead, Matt. What's your deal?
Hi, good morning, Jim and Marjorie. I wondered what you thought about with a crumbling infrastructure that the T has always been since the 70s, how wise it was to build new lines before they maintained the old ones.
Well, I don't think, by the way, I'm not an expert on this, Matt. Wait, Matt. But you should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. You should be able to expand in areas like the Green Line expansion into, for example, Union Square, Medford,
Somerville.
Exactly.
Yep.
At the same time that you're fixing stuff. I mean, this is like we're like a real state here. This is not like, whatever.
Okay.
What? Go ahead.
Was that, did they do that? They should be able to do it, but they didn't do it.
Well, that is correct.
Right. My point.
Okay, before you go, because you sound very knowledgeable, when do you think the slow zones will be eliminated? We're going to write down your guess. Go ahead.
I'm thinking of a song, the year 2525.
Oh, that's right. It was that group. What's the next line in that
up.
song? Will man survive or something? Was that not
Yes.
Exactly. Matt, thank you. 2025 is Matt's guess. 877-301-8970.
Okay, let us go now to Cindy from Gloucester. Hi, Cindy.
Hey, Cindy.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah.
This question would really be for your guest.
Yeah, it's a little
I
late.
ride the subway quite a bit, going up to the medical areas, Dana-Farber, et
Sure.
cetera.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that people above ground, passengers getting on, don't pay. The rear doors are open.
Yep.
I'm one of the only people, sometimes the only person who gets on, and I pay. And 30, 40 people scramble in the back doors all the way through down Huntington until you get below ground. And I'm just wondering, when they complain about budget, when they've got probably hundreds and hundreds boarding the cars this way every day, and the BU up Palm
we know.
Ave, what they plan to do. I feel like, why am I the only one paying and everyone else is getting on and riding for free?
I can't believe you
I
called
never understood why
Marjorie before the show started today. Came in, shook my hand, and proudly said, I have not paid on the Green Line in 11 years. So she's the issue you're talking about.
It is true.
Cindy,
I mean,
thanks.
it is true. It's a real problem. If you ask me how much the tea costed, I think it's
$2
something. I don't even know, because every time if I get on the front of the train, because I live right on the Green Line.
I know you do.
If I get on the Green Line in the front of the train, then I'm fumbling with the money. The guy just says, go sit down, go sit down, go sit down.
Is that true?
Well, because you're blocking people. They get frustrated with how long it's taking you to get your money together. And then if you get on the second train,
How
you
about
don't
buying a Charlie card? You ever heard of that?
I could buy a Charlie card, but I don't take it enough anymore.
So this is like a scam by you? You're purposely
it's not a
scramble
scam.
through your money so you don't have to pay?
Yeah, no, I'm not
By the way,
doing
you
it
do
on
that at the
purpose.
Newsfeed Cafe. They don't charge you there either. Wait a second. I got to find my...
But
That is
the
low
caller's
rent,
right.
Marjorie.
If you get on the second train back, there's nobody there taking your money. So it is.
Well, I don't
true.
think you have
There's a
to
lot
worry
of
because nobody's
scamming.
getting on the second train back. So that's really.
Well, people do take the reservoir line is pretty fast.
Okay.
And the Cleveland Circle line is pretty fast. It's the Boston College line that is really slow.
Mm-hmm.
That's another question. Why does the Boston College line stop?
Why didn't you ask him when he was here instead of asking me?
I didn't think of this. For every 3 blocks.
Yeah.
How can you get up any speed when you're stopping every 3 blocks? You in the car. Thank you for calling.
By the way, Nicole, our coworker, who obviously has learned horrible things from you, says she now brings a bag of pennies onto the bus to avoid paying. You're no dope, Nicole. It's
there you
brilliant.
go. They just get frustrated, right? You're counting everything out as it goes to them.
Love that.
All right, okay.
It's called a Marjorie, by the way. There's a term for that.
Yeah, that's
a Marjorie.
right.
Hugh in the car. What's up, Hugh? What's your guess?
My guess is with Marjorie. I think people are going to be willing to put up with about 1.5 years to have things improve. So if he doesn't improve things in 1.5 years, I think we're looking for a new guy.
What do you mean? What are they going to do? You say they're only going to tolerate 1.5 years. What are they going to do after the 1.5 years? What are they going to do?
He says hire a new guy.
Oh, you
People
mean?
are going to give up.
Oh, I see.
People are going to give up. They're going to go elsewhere. It's never going to come back to the way it should be.
Yeah.
Like, I really believe in mass transportation.
Yeah.
And one of the things here.
Hey, Hugh, I'll make you a deal. We'll give you a mug if you turn your damn radio off. How about that?
How's that? Does
Perfect.
that work?
Not really, but go ahead.
Yeah.
You have 30 seconds.
Not really. 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I love mass transportation.
Yeah.
And the last caller is talking about paying fares.
Yeah.
When I go to a foreign country, my assessment of that country's civilization is how simple is it to be able to buy
You're right.
your pass.
Hey, Hugh, can I tell you something? The connection is horrible, so goodbye. Thank you for calling. Let me just say to
You
you,
don't have to
Hugh.
be rude about it, Jim.
No, I don't mean to be rude. It's not his
Okay.
fault. Well, maybe it's his fault. I've said this before. I was on something. Margie's going to mock me because she always does. I was on Très Grand Vitesse. Do you know what that
Très Grand
means?
Vitesse,
What is
fast
it?
trains in
Very fast
Paris.
speed, it means. Yeah, how many years ago I was on a high-speed rail in Paris?
30.
35 years ago.
Well, I think-
how much high-speed rail do we have in the United States?
But I think
how much high-speed rail do we have in the
we
United
don't have
States?
any at all.
0.
But I think
None.
in defense, a lot of the European trains were all bombed in World War II. Isn't that one of the reasons
I don't know.
they had to rebuild a lot of them after World War II? I think that's one of their defenses.
So what's the conclusion you draw from this brief discussion about people's hope?
We're teetering on the edge of the abyss, Jim.
I think we are.
And we're hoping that Phil Eng can bring us back from the ledge.
By the way, he's promised next time he comes back, he will take all your questions and calls. We'll do an Ask the GM kind of thing.
Okay, after the new news, we're going to be joined by retired federal judge Nancy Gertner. We're going to talk about the latest grift by Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who just can't seem to get enough grifting going, and the latest on the Trump indictments. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, and we are back streaming on youtube.com/GBH News. I guess that was always working. And facebook.com/GBH News as well. Browdy, I am Marjorie Yegan. Welcome back to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. And we think everything is working as it should be right now. We want to mention to you that Mayor Michelle Wu will be with us next Tuesday, right here at the Boston Public Library. Take our questions and yours. And the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, will be here a week from today. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Margie. Joining us now on Zoom for another edition of On the Docket, retired federal judge Nancy Gertner. Judge Gertner is a senior lecturer at Harvard Law School and a BPR contributor. Hello, Judge Gertner.
Hello.
Hello.
So, Judge Gertner, I hate to be so repetitive because we're asking you a lot about Clarence Thomas and his, what I would call...
Well, he's repetitive, so I think...
grifting. And now ProPublica has gotten more details on the reception of gifts, at least 38 destination vacations, 26 private jet flights, 8 helicopter flights, a dozen VIP sport event passes, 2 luxury resort stays, and a standing invitation to this Millionaire Guy's exclusive private golf club. I just wonder if did you think at some point, Justice Roberts might use his bully pulpit or something's going to happen? I mean, this seems a little excessive.
Well, I think we're beyond Justice Roberts using his bully pulpit. I mean, these are things that was not disclosed. But people keep on confusing the disclosure rules the Supreme Court has adopted and agreed to be bound by. And when you sort of wholesale violate them, they actually could be referred for prosecution. We're also it's extraordinary how gentle we are about the Supreme Court, and that has been appropriate. But this is a level of flagrant ignoring of the rules that is just stunning. So it's not just Roberts, hey, Roberts, prodding him, hey, Clarence, would you please disclose the next time? But I think it actually requires more. There's what has come out on the ProPublica reporting is it sort of put the lie to the notion that this was personal hospitality. Right? I mean, he didn't even know these guys from Adam. There's also a story of a New Haven trip in a private jet so that he could look at his portrait. I mean, it's now not just what he did and the failure to disclose, but the essentially giving the country and Congress the back of the hand.
So, Judge Gertner, when you were Judge Gertner, your former Judge Gertner today, if you had done exactly what Clarence Thomas had done, would you have been referred for prosecution in your estimation?
Well, the odds are if it was a one-off.
Well, it wasn't a one-off. It's a multiple dozen off.
Right. I mean, initially they'd say, hey, you didn't disclose this in your should have. Right. Then it would be, hey, we told you didn't disclose this in your should have, and on and on and on and on. So yes, the one could have referred it for prosecution. It's a big deal. One doesn't do that, but there's a flagrancy about this, for which I think we should no longer be polite.
Can I play some?
He's evading taxes too, isn't he? Isn't he?
Isn't he what?
Evading taxes.
That's a really interesting point.
Well, that could be.
Gentleman in the audience.
Really good point.
Gentleman in the audience.
Thank you for that.
Just asked me that on the way out of the bathroom.
That's a
I
great
think he's got a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's certainly, these were gifts that may well have been unreported. But I think we've talked about this before. All of us walked within the lines, did our best to walk within the lines. I mean, there were organizations you wouldn't go to. There were, Celtics tickets you wouldn't accept. You think about the issues with Rachel Rollins. It was about a Celtics ticket was part of. Yep. And now you're talking about wholesale funding of a Supreme Court justice with, a luxury lifestyle, which is extraordinary.
We spoke to you. I'm not going to beat this one to death, but just to stay for another. We spoke to you about well, maybe I am. Okay, fine. Thank you for that, Judge Gertner. You're buddies with Justice Kagan, right? Are you not? Former head of Harvard Law School. Okay. Friend of yours. Yeah. Okay, I know you do. Justice Kagan spoke at a panel at the Ninth Circuit Judicial Conference yesterday. Here's what she had to say about a possible code of ethics for the Supreme Court.
It just can't be that the court is the only institution that somehow is not subject to any checks and balances from anybody else. I mean, we're not imperial. And we too are a part of a checking and balancing system in various ways. So can Congress do various things to regulate the Supreme Court? I think the answer is yes.
And she's responding essentially indirectly to what Justice Alito said when he said a week or two ago they don't have the power to regulate us. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked you when I was upset that when Chief Justice Roberts sent a letter to the chair of the Judiciary Committee in the Senate and said, nothing to see here. It was signed by all, and refused to appear before the committee. It was signed by all 9 justices, including the 3 liberals. And you said something about it's very hard, you know, in that kind of forum for the 3 liberals to break ranks with their colleagues. Is there a point, I mean, I can't imagine that the grifting, as Chuck Todd called it yesterday, by Thomas can get any worse, not to mention the fact that his wife was involved in an effort to overthrow the government of the United States. Let's forget that for a second. Is there a point at which you can imagine the 3 liberal justices standing up and saying, this is totally destroying confidence in the most important court in this country, if not the world? This has got to stop.
Yesterday was that point. Yesterday was that point. What Justice Kagan said was laying down the gauntlet in her very kind and subtle way, but saying, yeah, I believe Congress can not only that Congress can regulate us, but Congress should regulate us because we are not imperial. I was in New Zealand for the past 2 weeks, where I got COVID, by the way, but that's
all. Oh, sorry.
I didn't know that. How are you?
That's why I'm on Zoom. I spoke to their Supreme Court, and they were astonished at the stuff that they're hearing from our Supreme Court. These are people who are doing the very best they can to follow the rules. It was a real. It's not only sort of cast a shadow over Clarence Thomas, it's cast a shadow over the Supreme Court and the entire judicial system. How does it happen that this can go on?
We're talking to Judge Nancy Gertner.
So, Judge Gertner, returning to former President Trump and his legal woes, the D.C. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan just this morning said that the former president has a right to free speech like all the rest of us do, but it's not absolute. And she was talking about his free speech is subject to the rules in a criminal case because the president has been very outspoken criticizing people. And I guess there's fear that he's going to be publicly disclosing information from the discovery process or intimidating witnesses. So what is this all about?
Well, I think I'm glad you asked me the question because I think the coverage has not been great on this. So there are protective orders in criminal cases, partly because the government doesn't want to be in a situation where they turn over certain piece of information and the defendant goes on TV or goes running around saying, yeah, that piece of information, that piece of evidence, here's the way I think you should look at it, here's the way I think you should spin it. That would essentially undermine a trial. Information gets introduced in a trial in a controlled way before a jury with the rules of evidence. So if you could go screaming to the press with respect to every piece of evidence you find out about, you undermine the trial in fundamental ways. So protective orders are routinely granted. In addition, the second reason is they don't want, and it's again given in every case, for Trump to intimidate a witness. How would he intimidate a witness? The way he intimidated Pence, right? He'll find out. The one I'm looking at is whether Mark Meadows, for example, is on the witness list and provided interview. And if he then looks at Mark, then are we going to get a screed about Mark Meadows, intimidating Mark Meadows, scaring Mark Meadows, worrying about then scaring the next person around the corner? So this is really par for the course. Quite ordinary. What's produced in the criminal case is not the fodder of late night news. Otherwise, we lose all controls over a trial.
But I want to go further. There's another judge I'm already not happy with, Judge Chutkan, about whom I've heard wonderful and fair things. She says in this pronouncement today that Marjorie's reading from, if his comments result in intimidation. Fani Willis in Fulton County, Georgia, has already said she has been called the N-word and gotten more death threats in the last few weeks than she's gotten in her whole career. In addition to calling every black prosecutor involved in any of these cases a racist, as he does, the infamous line, if you go after me, I'm coming after you, and their pathetic, unbelievable excuse, no, we were talking about political opponents, that's an invitation to violence as far as I'm concerned. Why isn't Judge Chutkan talking about that instead of saying if it results in intimidation? It has resulted in intimidation already. You're smiling at me like I've made another foolish comment. Go ahead.
Because what we're seeing in each of these cases is the absolute reverse of the way the Republicans are spinning this. Yes, Judge Chutkan to do that. But what she wants is a more pointed, specific presentation in her court. That's what she's looking for. Show me, that's what he said before he was under my authority. Now he's under my authority, and here are the rules. The same thing happened with Roger Stone's case with Judge Howell in D.C., which is she'd say, you may not trash the court and trash, the witnesses and play to the press. And he went ahead and did that. In fact, there was a picture of her with a bullseye on her face that was on his Twitter feed or something. And so she kept on giving him chances until finally she said, enough already. You may not speak or you're going to be held in contempt. And I think what you're seeing here is a judge saying, let me take it from the top. I'm gonna basically make this precise and pointed at you, and focus it that way rather than dealing with what has happened before now. I think that that's the right thing to do. Likewise, it's also, bear in mind, it really is, how many times you can say this is unprecedented. He has to speak because he's running for president. But on the other hand, there are lots of things he can speak about other than these trials.
So let's move on to a second judge, Eileen Cannon, who was criticized from coast to coast earlier when she was trying to prevent the federal prosecutors from looking into information involving the former president for one of his other legal problems. Now there's some concern. I'll just give you a couple of quotes. Lawrence Tribe, one of your colleagues at Harvard Law School, has talked about Cannon continuing her, quote, dopey and constitutionally dubious usurpation of the executive branch's prosecutorial prerogatives. A couple of other former U.S. attorneys, there's this Joyce White Vance, say Cannon's actions may tee up the issue of her fitness for the case. Another guy said she sounds like an advocate for the defense, and this is about her, I guess, rejecting two sealed filings by special counsel Jack Smith, one involving two grand juries, one in Florida and one in Washington. So again, I'm asking what I asked about Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas before is, are we at the point where people should be worried about the competence of this judge to hold this trial, or does she just go on doing what Larry Tribe is calling dopey and constitutionally dubious things?
Should we worry about the competence of this judge?
Yeah.
As citizens, you might worry about the competence of this judge. Yes. The question is sort of what kind of experience she's had, but even putting that aside, the way she behaved in the investigative stage when she really stepped out of her lane and did what judges never do, because a judge has very limited jurisdiction over a case while it's in the prosecutorial investigative stage. So, we should be worried. Should we do something about it? The DOJ is not going to move to recuse her under these circumstances at all.
They're not.
Never. And they're not, because that will set off an arms race where then there'll be motions to recuse Chutkan, and then we're off to the races. So I think at this point, the most they can do is preserve their rights and appeal what they can appeal. And that best they can do. The failing to accept the sealed filings, by the way, sort of is another example of her lack of experience. It's not unusual for the government to continue to investigate additional allegations of crime. Government can't use the grand jury to go back and reinvestigate what they've already indicted, but they can go back and look at additional accusations of misconduct. That's perfectly appropriate. Nor is it inappropriate to have two grand juries when the act was done in one case, the impact in another. That's not unusual. So what she's doing is just being snarky about something about which there's no reason to be snarky. I've always said that the real issue here is how fast she's going to let this case move.
Yeah.
And if there's a trial, what kind of ruling she would make. Those are the real issues.
By the way, as you and Marjorie are speaking, Merrick Garland at this moment is announcing the appointment of a special counsel to look into the Hunter Biden matter. Do you think he's making the right choice?
I think he has no choice at this point. I think that the false equivalency that the Republicans are using to equate, the failure to go further in Hunter Biden with the investigations of Trump, which is a complete false equivalency. But I think that he has to deal with that, and there's no other way to deal with that except with a special counsel. There's just no other way to deal with it. So I think he has to do that.
Before you were a judge, I've said many a time, I assume people know, one of the best criminal defense lawyers maybe ever. Was Harvey Silverglate your partner in those days?
Harvey Silverglate was my partner.
Okay.
That's right.
Harvey Silverglate was on the show with us the other day. He, as you probably know, is one of the two lawyers representing John Eastman, who is believed to be unindicted co-conspirator number 2. And what I did when Harvey was on the show is I read excerpts verbatim from the indictment that reference unindicted co-conspirator number 2 and the crimes which the special counsel believes he has committed. And I asked Harvey Silverglate if his client did those things, and in each of the instances the answer was yes. But there was a huge but that came along with it. Here he is, after acknowledging, to his credit, that yes, his client did X and Y as alleged. Here was the however from your former partner, Harvey Silverglate.
Is there any threat made? This was a suggestion that he expand his role as vice president. And as you know, Jim, constitutional interpretation changes from era to era. And this was just a very creative, cutting-edge idea. Did you hear any threats? Was it a bribe situation? Absolutely not.
So obviously Harvey Silverglate's position is no bribe, no threats, no crime. What do you say, Judge Gertner?
I mean, it's like I'm going to go walk to the Bank of America at the end of the block, and I'm going to say, give me all the money in your safe, because I actually think it's my money, and you just screwed around with my forms, and I'm not going to tell you that I'm not going to say I'm going to kill you if you don't, but I'm going to tell you that my people, my authoritative people behind me, my people in positions of power will take action here. I mean, there's a continuum here, and it doesn't have to be a physical threat in order for it to have been threatening. And that comment has to be in the context of other issues in this case. So Eastman if these accusations are true, Eastman allowed himself to be part of a wider conspiracy whose obvious purpose, was to either delay the certification so the vote would go to state legislatures where the Republicans believed they controlled the vote, or to have Pence accept the false electors, in which case Trump would win. It doesn't have to be a threat to be a fraud. And it is a fraud, what he was saying and what he was suggesting. The notion that it's creative constitutional interpretation there certainly is creative constitutional interpretation. There's a range that may be legitimate. This was outside the range, and what's more, he admitted that. He and Chesebro admitted that, in fact, they had almost no chance. It would be 9-0 before the Supreme Court. So fraud doesn't have to take place with threats. Fraud can take place through misrepresentation, through misconceptions, and that's what this was.
We're talking to Judge Nancy Gertner.
So, Judge Gertner, you may be unaware that Jim had a brilliant piece published in the Globe just a couple of days ago.
She's in the damn
about
piece,
cameras in the
Marjorie.
court. Well, she may not Google herself as frequently as you Google yourself, so perhaps she missed it. But in any case, Jim made me aware before that you, at one point in your career, ordered a webcast of a trial, and then you were overturned in that effort. Why? What happened there?
Well, the First Circuit found that the Judicial Conference, which is the body that governs the courts, that really regulates the courts, had ruled that an individual judge did not have discretion to do what I thought I had discretion to do. So I was tipped on that. But can I just sort of make this a little wider for a moment?
Please.
Sure.
Overall context. So I moved into a beautiful new federal courthouse in about 1999 with the other judges when the court moved to the Moakley courthouse.
Yes.
The courthouse.
By the way, that's the courthouse where the judges like you blocked access to the water for real people, I should say, so you could see the harbor. Go ahead, Judge Gertner.
Right. So the courthouse was supposed to be, as up to date as possible in terms of the technology. So I'm sitting on the bench, and right opposite me was a little hole on the other side of the courthouse through which a camera could be placed. And in fact, they would use the cameras there sometimes for a security issue, or if they wanted to, broadcast what was going on in my courtroom in another courtroom. So there was a camera right there that was totally unobtrusive. There was also a camera behind me that was in the books. There's they had phony books behind me, and there was a little hole in one of them with a camera.
Oh, wow.
So the notion that they were anticipating cameras in the courtrooms, there's no question about it. And the notion that cameras were going to be these big, hulking O.J. Simpson cameras was simply not true. By 1999, it was clear that you didn't need those kinds of cameras in order to follow a proceeding. I was immediately interested in cameras in the courtroom because I'd been a criminal defense lawyer on the state side for 24 years. I had multiple cases that were filmed, that were on court TV every night, that were filmed sort of wall to wall, and I loved it. And there wasn't the, hey, judge couldn't control this grandstanding of lawyers. What had happened in OJ's case decades before wasn't going to happen as the courts and the judges and the court officers became comfortable with the way in which cameras would be used. And Massachusetts was that experience, and courts across the country. So the notion that the federal court, whose work is frankly much more boring, much less bloody, much less gore than the state courts, can't manage to do this in a respectful way, as far as I was concerned, was ridiculous. So I testified before Congress in 1999, I think it was, and I testified again in 2007, urging cameras in the courtroom. The case that I ordered it was particularly interesting because this was a case about a young man who had been downloading music.
Oh, yes.
Without paying for it.
Yes, I remember that one.
It was in the sort of funny interregnum between the time that, that the various music companies put a paywall before they did that, but, so there was some degree of ambiguity, not very much. And I thought that this was terribly important to broadcast, if anything, to show young people that they shouldn't be doing this. It was an issue that was of unique importance to the next generation. And we could do it with care. I knew how to do it with care, and there was no reason not to. With Trump now, I was watching the coverage this morning in Judge Chutkan's court, and I mean, somebody is writing notes and sending the notes to the commentator.
Right.
A runner. There's a runner who has to run the notes out to the reporter.
Right, which is just ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. Why does it continue? John Roberts.
Who could, by the way, As we learned, if you read the op-ed yesterday, which was in the Globe, which Nancy Gertner is featured in.
Which was fabulous.
Thank you. I was waiting for that. It took a long time to get there,
Everyone's
Judge.
talking about
Let
it.
me just say, one of two ways this courtroom, even if they don't do it broadly, could be open, like Nancy Gertner tried to do in 2009. Either as head of the Judicial Conference, Justice Roberts could order it in the public interest, or Congress could order it, and that's the only way we will get to see the prosecution of Donald Trump.
You know, just one last thing, Judge Gertner. I mean, I used to cover trials. I love covering trials. I thought it was fascinating. But it was often apparent to me and to lots of people that unless you're really in the courtroom and you can see the witnesses and you can see the defendant and you can see the lawyers, you don't really get it. Because there's so many people's inflection of their voices, and are they lying, are they not lying? And that's why I think it's so important to see this case, because you won't get it just by getting notes scribbled and sent out, I think.
Well, but not like that. I mean, we're seeing from your earlier questions, one side is spinning Judge Chutkan as a terrible judge.
Right.
Great point.
Spinning Eileen Cannon as a terrible judge. Let's watch them.
Yeah.
They're doing, and you'll get a different sense of the complexity of the proceeding. One last thing. If you remember 12 Angry Men, which was
one of the
that
greats.
movie. Yeah.
And there's a wonderful moment when one of the jurors, an elderly man, recalls that a witness who said that he heard a body drop and ran to the door, and the juror said, wait a minute, how could this witness have run to the door? You saw the way he walked to the witness box. He had a profound limp. He couldn't possibly have done that. And that's the difference between what you hear with your ears,
That's a great
what
point.
you see with your eyes, and what you see in context. So I'm totally with you, and it really is, it's outrageous.
By the way, speaking of the O.J. trial, one of O.J.'s lawyers, Barry Scheck, will be with us next week, not about the O.J. trial, but about his most recent work with the Innocence Project, which he co-founded. Feel better. It's great to see you, Judge Gertner. Thanks
Thank
so
you
much for
very
your
much.
time. Appreciate it.
Retired federal judge Nancy Gertner is a senior lecturer at Harvard Law School and a Boston Public Radio contributor, and we thank her very much, as always, for her time. After a quick break, our food policy analyst, Corby Kummer, is going to be with us. He's going to tell us why you should never eat bacon again and whether cooking videos actually make you a better cook. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie, and we're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. The audio feed at gbhnews.org is fixed too. Mayor Wu is with us Tuesday for Ask the Mayor. Andrea Campbell is with us Friday for Ask the Attorney General, and now joined on Zoom by food policy analyst Corby Kummer. Corby is the executive director of the Food and Society Policy Program at the Aspen Institute, senior editor at the Great Atlantic, and a senior lecturer at the Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition, Science, and Policy. Hello, Corby Kummer.
Hello, Jim. Hello, Marjorie.
Hello there.
Great to talk to you, Corby. So let's start with, we heard this a lot at the beginning of the war between Russia and Ukraine about Ukraine being a bread basket of the world, Russia being a bread basket of the world. We're in trouble, it seems like, with this continuing conflict in terms of not just the horror there, but in terms of our food systems, what's going to happen?
Well, food systems are in trouble, and blocking shipping routes has been a tool of war from the beginning as far as Russia is concerned. So there have been incredible blockages, and to make wheat it's really Northern Africa and Egypt that relies most on wheat from Ukraine, and to make block the shipping lanes and routes is incredibly inhumane, because if you recall, the Arab Spring began with the price of bread and wheat.
That's a good point.
And so all of these, and I don't know if most wars, but many wars can be traced to the price of food. So it's an enormously potent weapon. Russia has been using it against Ukraine, in addition to the incredible reliance Ukraine has on being the breadbasket of the world and needing to export this wheat. But Russia weaponizing food routes and deliveries has been a feature from the beginning of the war.
And particularly when you say a problem for us, it's particularly a problem for some poorer countries in parts of Africa and other places where there are drought conditions already. Does anybody in the world have the ability to fill the hole that this, whatever it's called, the Black Sea Grain Initiative, now that it's closed, created?
Yes, they do. U.S., Argentina, Canada, I'm trying to think of other big grain producers. They can. What they can't do is match the prices, which are so much based on shipping costs. Ukraine is actually close to North Africa. It's close to the northern Mediterranean and North Africa. And so I don't think, also famines are never a matter of supply. They're a matter of price and political logistics. And so, as with all these things, it's not so much the quantity or availability of food, it's the shipping and the logistics to get it to people affordably.
Savagery of the Russians, not just towards the Ukrainian people, but around people of the world who are in need, is just unspeakable. Speaking of unspeakable, I promised Marjorie we'd do this next story quickly and that I would not play the sound we had. This story in Vox, based on the research of a group called Animal Outlook that deals with the humane or inhumane treatment of animals. I have to say, and please be careful, because it is the treatment of pigs in this story at some of these huge farms is as disgusting as anything I have ever read in my life. And I know horrible. It is sadistic. There are quotes when they do these unimaginably horrible things to these pigs. You hear quotes from the workers celebrating it, laughing about it. It's just, so give us enough of a capsule that hopefully people like me who love bacon will decide we got to find something else to put on the LT.
I think one thing that we can say on air is paddling a pregnant sow to move her and saying to your workers, this feels good, because you're taking out your rage on a completely defenseless animal. The other inhumane castration of pigs without any kind of
anesthetic,
the constant screaming. I'm glad you're not playing sound. It definitely is enough, I think, to make you never buy or eat bacon. It's so much a feature of all animal raising feedlots and large concentrated animal feedlot operations, CAFOs. But to read Vox on the minute by minute videos, and what was so admirable about Animal Outlook is they actually tried to get a lawsuit and a restraining order against the company before releasing it. Then the statute of limitations ran out from like 2018 or 19 till today, an incredibly brief statute of limitations. So they said, okay, we're going public with this, enough trying to play nice guy, although if they'd gotten a restraining order and against this factory, and this factory sells to JBS, Tyson Foods, Triumph Foods, these enormous food companies, which of course have said, oh no, that's not our problem. Holden Farms, which contracted with this incredibly, particularly inhumane Minnesota, 120 miles southeast of Minneapolis factory, has said, oh, why don't you look at our video on our website in which we talk about our deep commitment to humanity and humane treatment for animals, completely masking these very horrible truths.
One last thing about this without going into detail, and I would suggest that people, when you steel yourself for it, should Google this story at Vox. It's really an important story to read. It's called A Pig Farm Investigation Exposes the Industry's Practice of Forced Cannibalism. I was not aware, but not surprised. The Federal Animal Welfare Act specifically excludes livestock from protection, and I assume that's purely because of the power of the big agriculture businesses in this country. Is that not true?
Yeah, it's entirely the lobbies. And
gross.
Can we forget that at the beginning of the pandemic, the lobbies were so powerful that they got Trump to declare slaughterhouse workers
that's right.
So that it would essentially they were being slaughtered by proximity to other workers. They were dying horribly by COVID, completely needlessly. And what were the companies doing? They were exporting that meat to China, let alone they were hardly essential workers to the U.S.
Well, I just want to add one thing. They credit this activist group Animal Outlook that's been investigating cruelty to these animals for a long time. And it's pigs, but it's also chickens.
I know.
And it's cows, and it's fish. I mean, if you want to get help becoming a vegetarian, I would say this would be it is just disgusting.
You know what the next story is, Marjorie? How the purchase of Beyond Meat is dropping precipitously. So we theoretically care about these things. We read these stories, and irresponsible people like me hopefully change their behavior. But obviously, that's BS. I mean, this explosion of meat alternatives is becoming a trickle.
You are a responsible person. You will often go for the vegetable-based burger on a menu, or have you been lying?
Well, can you answer my question while I'm thinking about the answer to that question?
You had an alpaca burger the other day.
I know. Don't repeat that.
We had an alpaca in the studio, and this is the most adorable thing. It had a little red bow tie on
we don't have to do
and little
this.
red shoes. Jim is over petting the alpaca.
And I did have an alpaca
cooing
burger
at the
on Monday.
alpaca.
I'm not having another
and then
alpaca
he confessed
burger.
that he had an alpaca burger. But I mean, really, after you read these stories, it ruins. I've said to friends oftentimes that because of Corby Kummer on the radio with me, I can't eat half the things I used to eat because it is so horrible to hear about the way we treat animals.
By the way, excuse me. We split a chicken salad sandwich for breakfast.
We did.
So you're not exactly holier than thou either.
No, I'm not holier than that.
Fine.
Well, I don't eat as much meat as you do, and I've never eaten
what is a chicken
burger.
Salad made with?
It's chicken, but it's not cows.
Okay, fine.
And it's not pigs.
Corby is here. I forgot about Corby for a second.
I used to eat bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwiches. I got to stop that now, too.
Okay, fine. Just eat lettuce and tomato.
Lettuce and tomato
sandwich. And maybe a little alpaca thrown in there.
Have you become a vegetarian
Look how
vegan?
slim he is. We don't care what he's doing.
You can't do that because you're a food critic.
Okay, can you answer my damn question?
Well, hold on. I have a question first. I mean, after reading all this, how do you eat these things?
Look at him.
Okay.
He's lean and mean. Go ahead.
You can be lean and mean having meat, but the place you want to get meat is from the farmer's market where you talk to the farmer.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
Yeah.
So as long as you know the person who's raised the animal, and you have any confidence that they're, a humane, well-meaning person, and most farmers who show up at farmers markets that's a product you can trust.
Do you think they're lying? At Whole Foods, they say they have that.
No, he means even smaller. He means like small farmers who sell at farm stands.
But most people aren't going to small farms. They're going to bigger places like Whole Foods, where they claim they have this humane scale from 1 to 5, right?
I'm gripping my chair because I'm feeling interrogated, which is to say I don't really trust most certifications.
Okay, you don't.
Whole Foods.
Go down the street to their farms represented in Copley Square when we're here during the day that sell meat and things from their small family farms.
And I believe that the Farmers Market Association scheduled its Copley Square markets for Boston Public Radio. They are on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Okay, fine. Corby, about an hour ago, I asked you, why is Beyond Meat selling less product than they were before? What?
Because consumers got less interested in this, and I would say it's because the meat industry has done a very good job of smearing plant-based meat as saying, oh, look, it's processed. It's high in calories. It's high in fat. It's not that processed. It's using ingredients your grandmother hasn't, it wouldn't have in our pantry. First of all, almost everything we eat does. This is a huge ultra-processed food debate. It's not particularly ultra-processed, meaning ultra-processed generally means something that's composed of a bunch of components that have already been processed. So put them all together and they're ultra-processed. It's just a couple of ingredients, but they've looked scary on labels, and the meat industry has said, we've got one ingredient or two. It's pork killed at a very humane factory. Look at our website. And salt. That's it. So I think that the plant-based meat industry is fighting back by saying we do have simple, clean processing, but they've been set back by this campaign, and they haven't had enough unity, Impossible and Beyond, the two brand leaders, in getting this message across together. And I think they're starting to do that. One of the reasons we read, and we're talking now about a piece in the Boston Globe about Beyond Meat's falling revenues year over year, is that Beyond Meat is a public company and has to report quarterly earnings. Impossible is private. It does not. And my sources say that Impossible has been battered as well. So they're both in the same boat. They're both having to fight the meat industry and the lobby that we were talking about before. But also, I think consumers should be more aware of the general attributes, which is to say, you care about the environment, you should be buying these meat alternatives. You care about the way pigs are treated instead of these horrible, sadistic, screaming alternatives. You should be looking for these products.
Okay, so Corby Kummer, I have been campaigning unsuccessfully for the 4-day work week for about 20 years. Marjorie's ridiculed me. All of a sudden, COVID came along, and the 4-day work week hasn't quite become a reality, but is a lot more possible. Of course, a lot of people I know are working a 3-day work week, but that's another story. The restaurant industry is apparently, maybe not en masse, but on the fringes at least, moving in that direction in great part because of the inability to find workers and because work-life balance is becoming much more central to those workers. Is that a fair summary of that?
First of all, speaking of fair summaries, you've just smeared most of the workforce by saying they've gone to 3-day work weeks.
I didn't say most of them. There's some. Go ahead.
Restaurants are particularly high-stress environments.
Right.
The work shifts are much longer and much more difficult than most work shifts. So owners were finding it's better for me, it's better for my workers if we go on to a 4-day work week and there could be more family time, more lifetime, all of that work-life balance. One flaw in the New York Times story is it's that old 2 or 3 makes a trend, and they barely found 3 restaurant owners to say we've gone to a 4-day work week. So I'm worried it's not particularly a trend. I would like to see members from the National Restaurant Association or the Independent Restaurant Association saying more and more restaurants are making the 4-day work week work. It certainly makes sense in principle.
Talking to Corby Kummer, our food guy.
Apparently, Jim, who just trashed me for splitting a chicken salad sandwich with him, we have sound of you last time talking about lab-grown chicken, and maybe we can hear a little bit of that.
Please.
It's from a chicken. It's from a chicken. It's chicken. It's chicken.
I don't know enough about cells.
Yeah, but in defense, that was brilliant on my part, by the way. But my point was, I was trying to argue for you that you should eat lab-grown chicken. And actually, this makes me sound better than I actually am. It's a little cell. They take a cell or a bunch of cells, and aren't I right about this? This lab-grown stuff? It's not like a whole chicken. It's pieces of a chicken, little cells that become a whole chicken, right? Am I right about that or what?
If this could be affordable on the kind of mass level that Let's Find and Shame Holden Farms in Minnesota is the way they're treating their animals, and it can be made affordable, it's definitely a great alternative. That's not in our lifetimes, I believe.
It's not?
Maybe 20 or 30 years from now, maybe. The chicken meat that's now being sold, which might or might not have a bunch of filler that's plant-based protein alternative, sort of like Hamburger Helper. I'm going to wait and see. There's almost no place in the United States where you can get the cell-processed chicken. Maybe at Jose Andres' China Chilcano in Washington, they're debuting it, and then I think Dominic Atelier Cren in San Francisco. It's a huge loss leader for the companies that are trying to publicize this. It's way, way off. Plant-based meat is right here. It's right at the supermarket. And affordable.
Okay, so Corby Kummer, lots of people watch these cooking videos. The New York Times had a piece questioning whether or not cooking videos make people better cooks. Here's a little clip from one of those turbocharged MC cooking videos with TikTok user The Golden Balance showing speaking of chicken, a chicken wing recipe.
These are Asian zing wings. Can we make a chicken wing sandwich? No. Let's season down the buttermilk. And now we marinate until we lose patience. For our dry batter, it's time to get lost in the sauce. We can start this operation healthy. Sesame seeds because we're fancy. And now we have final product. And as always, now Bismillah.
I have no idea what the hell that was.
I have no idea either. But the question is whether watching things like this is going to help anybody get to be a better cook, or is this just kind of slow TV when you're sitting around kind of glued on your couch looking off into the distance?
I'll tell you what it was. It was just the pace of social media has made everything much faster. It's personality driven. That was from TikTok, and it was two charismatic guys, one of them particularly good looking and young, who are trying to attract attention and get views. And the point of a really nice New York Times survey of history of Julia Child and Joyce Chen and James Beard in the late 50s through mid 60s, going on, being quite serious and educational, although who was more entertaining than Julia, but with very serious educational intent underneath. Then going forward to the Galloping Gourmet, and many other places.
Yeah, who was that? What was the name of the Galloping Gourmet? I forgot about that. Who was the Galloping Gourmet?
This is unfair. I'm not prepared. He was Canadian, and I can't remember his name, and he just died.
Okay. Well, that's particularly sad. Go ahead.
But he made a fortune. But it was entertainment, and then it went to Emerald and the Food Network. So now TikTok is 30 seconds, and it's charismatic guys entertaining you and making you feel you can do this. I think it's just fine. I don't think that it's worth bashing anybody. There was a very interesting moment about 7 years ago, when BuzzFeed started Tasty, called Hands and Pans videos. And it was overhead. All you saw were the hands and the mixing bowl. It was in speeded up motion, but it made you feel, okay, I can go get the Bisquick and the eggs, and that was about it for the entire recipe. I think it all makes it seem entertaining and accessible. I don't bash this at all.
So before you go, you're a very well-read person. Would you agree with that?
No, not on air.
Okay, fine. So, by the way, the guy's name was Graham Kerr.
Graham Kerr, thank you.
That wasn't the point. As a well-read person, I assume you, like you mentioned Emerald Lagasse. You, like I, subscribe to the Fall River Herald News. Is that correct?
That's right. He's from Fall River.
I'm being set up.
No, you're not, actually. A couple of years ago, because I know you read the Fall River Herald News, there was a front page story that listed the 10 most famous people ever, I repeat, ever, do not interrupt me, ever to come from Fall River. Emerald Lagasse was one. Of the remaining 9, let me repeat, the most famous people who have ever, E-V-E-R, ever come from Fall River. Who else was on that list, Corby Kummer?
I hope it was Marjorie Egan.
Marjorie Egan, it was.
I was. It's
one of the
very nice.
Exactly.
That was very nice. Well,
how come if that happened to me, I'd be like talking about it every day. That was huge.
Well, you were from Philadelphia, a slightly bigger pool from which to choose, I would say, than Fall River. But anyway,
in any case,
I love my hometown.
How humble is she? Is she unbelievable?
I love my hometown.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Corby Kummer, thank you very much.
Corby.
And I got to tell you, we need some bean recipes is what we need going forward. I think after reading all these disgusting things about all the food
I'm really going to try to not do the bacon thing. I really am going to try.
Lentils,
maybe a pork chop. But no, I'm not going to. No, I'm not. Corby, it's great to see you as always. Thank you very much for your time. We love Corby Kummer.
We've been speaking with Corby Kummer, Executive Director of the Food and Society Policy Program at the Aspen Institute, a senior editor at The Atlantic, and a senior lecturer at the Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy. I hope the pizzas don't have any bacon in them.
We'll find out.
After a quick
break. If they do, we'll have to make an exception.
I'm going to be joined by the husband and wife duo behind Enzo's Pizza
Cannot
Pie.
wait.
I can't wait to try this. A pizza pop-up shop that's getting a lot of attention and a lot of love for their neo-Sicilian focaccia crusts. Enzo and Meg Pileggi are next. Stay with us. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Marjorie's so happy, something we can actually eat. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library. Streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, Facebook.com/GBH News. Mayor Wu will be here for an hour on Tuesday for Ask the Mayor. Attorney General Campbell, Andrea Campbell, will be here an hour next Friday at the library for Ask the Attorney General. We're now joined by Enzo, and Meg Pileggi, the husband and wife team behind Enzo's Pizza Pie, an up-and-coming pizza operation you can find one glorious day a month out of Clover Food Labs in Cambridge, a few blocks from where I live, luckily for me. That day this month is tomorrow, August 12th. Luckily for Marjorie and me.
It's not August 12th.
What is it?
August 19th.
August 19th. That's what I meant, Marjorie. Thank you for that. This day, the month is a week from tomorrow. By the way, you correct the host, you're never invited back. Do you understand that? You understand how that works?
I'm going to go now.
Exactly. August 19th, a week from tomorrow. Luckily for Marjorie and me, we have 3 incredibly beautiful pies to taste. For more details, we're going to explain how the whole thing works at enzospizzapie.com. Enzo and Meg, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
These are gorgeous, by the way.
I'm never supposed to talk with my mouth full, so I'm trying to disguise it as best I can. But just start, you guys met at Johnson & Wales, a cooking school. Very romantic, yeah.
Sure did.
And then how'd you get from there to here?
To here. Well, we spent a year in Philadelphia working for sister companies, and then both had opportunities to move to Boston and came here. We were freshly married and thinking of a move to Chicago when Vincenzo stumbled upon Clover Food Lab, and we ended up staying in Boston, and we were here for...
And what is Clover Food Lab, Vincenzo? Why don't you explain that? What is it?
It's a delicious, vegetarian-forward, quick-service restaurant with the goal of converting meat eaters to eating more vegetables to have an impact on the environment.
Best falafels and hummus I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
In addition to other fabulous
I mean, I don't know if you heard the disgusting segment we just had about the
we
horrible
heard it
way.
all.
Yeah, the story was so upsetting I couldn't even read it. So I'm looking for excuses to get away. I should move in next door to the Clover Food Lab.
Well, I can assure you this wasn't made in a lab.
Yeah.
So can we talk about your theory, Enzo, behind pizza and what you see, this neo-Sicilian thing? I have no idea what that means. I know what it looks like. What's the whole concept behind what you two are doing?
Well, it started by just making pizza every Friday during the pandemic. We both were home, not working. And
is that modeled on a family thing, from what I understand?
My grandmother made pizza every Friday night growing up.
Great.
And it was such a great memory. I would, in Boston, I would consider the closest thing to it is Galleria Umberto, which is made on a sheet pan, tomato cheese, just simple and perfect. And I would make versions of that, but using my culinary training and what's in season and trying to do something different and pulling from my favorite styles of pizza, which I love South Shore bar pizza, Detroit style pizza, and then my grandmother's pan pizza as the foundation. And here we are.
But this Meg has got something unique. It's well, I think it's unique, focaccia bread.
Well, yeah, it's a 72-hour at minimum fermented dough. So that's like the culinary part of everything that Vincenzo really worked on for a long time. Trying to pinpoint just like how we get that really good crumb and a really good, easily digested dough.
Which comes from the autolyse technique, which is where, most pizza shops mix flour, water, yeast, and they serve that dough that same day. But the French developed a technique in the 70s called autolyse, which is where you hydrate the flour before you add yeast and salt, and which in turn gives you a better texture, better crumb, and it's more digestible.
I've never had corn on. I love
it's
corn.
Delicious.
By the way. I've never had corn. Describe exactly what that one of the. Well, describe what all three of them are that you have here.
Yeah. So these two are we call our core pizzas. We serve every month, which is our dough.
While you're doing this, by the way, if you hold them up at an angle to that camera over there, people watching on YouTube or Facebook can see. Okay, great. Okay, keep talking.
So
that's good.
The tomato is an ode to our year in Philadelphia and going to New Haven style pizza, which is just good dough, tomato, and we top it with marjoram, and then the cheese just has a cheese blend, which is cheddar mozzarella, which is our ode to South Shore bar pizza.
Because you think cheddar's better than mozzarella.
I think mozzarella is the filet mignon of cheese.
Yeah.
It's all texture, no flavor. So cheddar really just gives it that flavor you want more and more.
And what about the corn?
And then the corn, we always do 2 rotating seasonal, and there's always a story behind it. And this is like, my joke is like if an Italian chef was obsessed with Mexican corn, how would he make a pizza? So it has a basil ricotta spread, local corn. It has our cheese blend, and then we top it with pecorino cheese and Calabrian chili, which is, again, it's just interchangeable Mexican ingredients with Italian ingredients. And then I have a secret obsession with mayonnaise, so I'm always using mayo.
Mayonnaise in there?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I'm obsessed with mayonnaise too. Glad to meet you.
What's your favorite?
It out of the jar.
Well,
yes.
I shouldn't admit this because it's not particularly. I mean, it's not a fancy mayonnaise, but I just eat Cane's.
What's wrong with that?
Cane's. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really high
We're
end.
at Duke's in a Hellman's house.
Yeah.
Hellman's is good too.
Yeah.
Hellman's is good too.
You have to refrigerate it, yes or no?
No.
Mayonnaise, no?
Well, it depends on the ingredients.
Oh, now he's backtracking. Go ahead, so let's hear it, Vincenzo.
Well, if there's certain ones that you can buy that you have to keep in the fridge because there's no real preservatives in it.
Yeah.
But once you open mayo, you should ideally keep it refrigerated.
So can you describe, Meg, this pop-up, how this thing works? When you order, how you order, when do you show up, where do you show up, what's the deal?
So it's a little different than what you normally would do for a pop-up. We have ordering that will open on Monday, the week of the pop-up. And so we publish the menu on Instagram and on the actual website, and you can go and reserve your pies. And then once it's sold out, it's sold out. And then on Saturday, we have pickup slot times that you register for when you're checking out, and you come and pick it up at 4, 5, or 6.
At the Inman Square location, right?
So this is Enzo'sPizza.com that you go to.
It's at Enzo'sPizzaPie.com.
Oh, pizzapie.com, okay.
And on our Instagram, there's a link that goes to all of it.
So say you pick up your pie and you're not going to eat it for another hour. What do you do?
Good question. It's super hydrated, so the dough doesn't get that, dried out taste to it, like pizza can have, especially like a sheet pan pizza. So this is super hydrated. I love it at room temperature. I love it the next morning for breakfast. I like it the next day after that for breakfast too. Like it's good, and you can also, throw it in a cast iron and crisp up the bottom if you wanted to.
Oh,
one thing,
but not the microwave.
Yeah, well, we don't have our microwave.
Okay, no. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to horrify you.
Yeah, so I've never tried that, but maybe that would work. We do a ranch too, that I think is one of the best things that came out.
Dressing?
Ranch dressing that we make from scratch.
As a dip.
So I'm a big dipper. All my girlfriends are from Detroit, and they taught me about Jets Pizza, and they taught me about ranch, and I'm obsessed. And that was, I would say that this tomato pie that, it's pretty sweet. I think the Boston Globe had a 7-year-old that called it a tomato candy.
Tomato candy, that was great.
Line,
it really cuts it with the ranch. It's so good. We give it out a lot of times too. We're giving out samples when people buy pie. So it's really good the next morning, dipped in the ranch. It's
Vincenzo, when I was reading, I don't know if it was the Globe or whatever story I was reading, but this is a pop-up operation. I operate under the assumption, which is one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you, is that pop-ups are just one step towards a permanent brick and mortar kind of thing. But you're not there yet, right? In your head?
We're having fun.
Yeah, this is.
Is that really what it's
joke,
about?
Really, we're really having fun right now.
We joke about it's date night for
Yeah,
us.
it is.
So, we're not saying no to future opportunities, but right now, we both are really happy where we work. Being a parent has been awesome, and getting into, a full commitment on a brick and mortar and a lease and all that comes with that is not something that I'm thinking about now. But most important thing, we're just having fun. We want to share something different, something delicious, and if opportunities come down the road, we'll entertain them.
So you have other jobs in addition to this?
Oh, yeah.
What do you do?
Well, I'm at North Coast Seafoods, helping run that operation, and we're one of the largest seafood distributors on the Eastern Seaboard, so it's a big operation. We've got a place down the street from you in Fall River. We're in New Bedford and in Boston and Chatham, and then Vincenzo is...
I'm a partner with M&A Brands, which is Mike and Patty's, Hotbox.
Gosh.
Flower House
we're
Bakery.
Wait a second. When do you make the damn pizzas? When are you doing that? Like Friday at midnight or something?
Tuesday, make the dough.
Short answer, I make it at home, essentially. But I find the time. You have to make the time.
How many pizzas do you sell on Saturdays?
Last pizza pop-up, we sold 140.
Wow.
So when do you make 140 pizzas?
So that's a great question. So
Thank you.
I go Monday night, I make, on pop-up week, Monday I go make the dough. And Clover's been super gracious to host us there. So I make the dough, and every night during the week I'll go and fold the dough. On Friday I make all of my toppings, and then on Saturday morning pop-up day I'll get in at 7 a.m. and I start to proof the dough, par bake, and basically set up. And then another joke that we have is we have what we call a release party, which is I'll bring on some old friends or coworkers, and they come because 40 pizzas get cooked at a time when they come out of the oven. Part of the thing that also makes, the pizza special, if you look on the bottom of this crust, similar to cooking a large steak, you need to let it rest. So when the pizza's done cooking, it's got to come out of the pan and it has to breathe for a few minutes. And that breathing process on a cooling rack allows for that crust to develop. I made these pizzas this morning at 10 a.m. and I think you still have that crunch now.
Yes, it does.
So,
Absolutely.
that's part of that design. We make it work.
Date night.
Yeah, that's date night.
That's when we get a babysitter, so.
Yeah.
My God.
We're not in the restaurants anymore, and it's hard to commit to something like that.
Is this successful?
But we miss
Yes,
it, and this satiates that, yeah.
So next Saturday, if people want to come out to get the pizza next Saturday, then they should start reserving earlier in the week so that they can get them.
So we actually opened up the reservations today. Okay. So right now you can go and you can start reserving pies right now. We also opened an extra time slot for 4 o'clock pickup. So we're going to ramp it up a little bit. Vincenzo.
Okay. One more question. I assume, I shouldn't assume anything. Do you decide during the week, whatever makes you happy, these are the kinds I'm going to make for Saturday, or what do you do?
So that's a bit longer. So usually it's based on like the time of the year.
Oh.
And then we think of, where we've traveled or ingredients that we love that are in season. And then Megan and I will have a healthy debate on like what we're going to do and how it's going to look. And we'll practice and test, weeks before the pop-up. And then we decide on what we're going to do. And that's when we then have pictures and we announce what we're going to do for those months. It's not that hard too, because like half of our menu is always the same and the other half is seasonally rotating.
Yeah. And when you say Neo-Sicilian, why Neo-Sicilian? What does that mean?
So a lot of people for the longest time kept asking, what kind of pizza is it? What kind of pizza is it? And I couldn't figure out one word. So I had these long drawn out like explanations. And then there's been this movement in the US where people are doing Neapolitan style pizza, but not traditional, so they call it Neo-Neapolitan, and I was like, oh, well, it's kind of like Sicilian.
Okay.
But it's not, it's like a newer style of Sicilian, so the birth of Neo-Sicilian terminology
Are you two as happy as you look? What's the deal here?
a lot of pizza.
When
Makes
he
you
talks,
happy.
she smiles. When she talks, what's the deal here? What's going on?
I mean,
Well,
we
it's
met,
either that or we're fighting.
yeah.
Okay, that's an honest answer. I
Yeah.
guess, yeah.
So how many different kinds of pizzas are at the pop-up every week? I mean, do you have
4 to 5.
4 to 5?
Yeah,
okay.
4 to 5.
All
Yeah.
right.
And
we
we-
usually
it's
have
right
a
near
fruit
my house.
pizza. We
I
usually
know.
have a fruit pizza too, so that's
You
like
do?
a kind of fun thing.
Oh,
We
Oh,
have
no, wait a
fruit
second. You were
pizza?
doing great till that.
No,
Don't
no.
tell me you're into pineapple on pizza. Are
Okay.
you?
We've done a pineapple. We've done we have a peach this month
Oh.
that we're gonna do, and then
maybe.
something that I used to make a sausage and roasted grape like dish that we would have with like crusty bread. Vincenzo was like, the grapes just kind of taste like sausage almost on their own, so he's been doing a roasted grape pie too. That's a white pie that's amazing. It's
The way I describe how fruit on pizza works is the same way when you eat a cheese board and you put cheese with some kind of fruit jam on a cracker.
That's an excellent point.
It's the same thing. So we
Meg
try
is
to
mocking me. I don't know if you're aware while you're speaking. She's mocking me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but it's we want to have items that are simple and familiar, and then we like to have fun with some items for those that want to take.
By the way, the best part of this whole discussion, beyond how good the pizza is the fun aspect, which I think is the real deal with you two, and then it fits into your life and your balance. It's great. Congratulations
Thank you.
to both of you, and the pizza's fabulous.
It is
Awesome.
fabulous. I'm going to have another piece in just a second here because I only got one. I want another one. Enzo and Meg Pileggi, the husband and wife team behind Enzo's Pizza
Thank you
Pie,
so much, you
a
two.
pizza pop-up you can find at Clover Food Labs in Cambridge. They are taking orders now, as Meg just said, for their pop-up day, was next week.
Next week.
It's not tomorrow.
Oh.
Extra slices and pies are offered on a first-come, first-served
good.
basis, available starting at 5 p.m. If you want to get in on this deal, go to enzospizzapie.com. That's enzospizzapie.com. Thank you so much. Don't go. Where are you going with that pizza?
Oh, I'm just packing it up for you.
Okay, I want to get another piece before I go.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm hungry. I've been waiting all day for these
this
pizzas.
is yours.
After a quick break, Live Music Friday on Boston Public Radio. Today, August 11th, marks 50 years since the founding of hip-hop. God, I can't believe it's been 50 years. Boston-based hip-hop collective Still Gold is hosting their first ever Gold Festival. It's going to be this weekend at Boston City Hall. We're going to talk with members of the band, plus artist Billy Dean Thomas, who's helping organize the whole thing. What's going on this weekend, we're going to tell you about that. We're going to hear some great music. Don't go away. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marge Regan. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. Mayor Wu is here for an hour on Tuesday for Ask the Mayor at the library. Attorney General Andrea Campbell is here on Friday for an hour of Ask the AG. Today is a huge day for hip-hop, as Margie said, and fans of the genre. 50 years to the day the DJ Kool Herc organized the back-to-school jam in the Bronx. By the way, 4 blocks from where my legal services office was when I was a young kid
Jim
lawyer.
was there at the birth
in
of
New York
everything.
City. Well, I wasn't there, but I was down the block with his sister Cindy that would go on to flourish into the biggest thing in music, hip-hop, since Chuck Berry's rock and roll. It's that anniversary that's at the center of a free, one of the words we love the most, festival taking place this Saturday from noon to 10, the first ever Gold Festival, curated by the legendary and award-winning Boston hip-hop band Still Golden. By the way, there's a huge photograph in the weekend section of today's Globe.
Whole front page.
Now, none of them are smiling, which is an issue. We'll find out about that in a minute. Mo Pope, here with us now, is the band's frontman, or also a curator and co-producer of the Gold Festival. Mo, it's great to have you. Thanks for being here.
I appreciate it.
Billy Dean Thomas, they'll be performing this weekend too, but also moonlights as Boston City Hall Plaza's engagement manager. I love that. In a couple of minutes, we'll hear music for Live Music Friday. For now, Mo, Billy Dean, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming. So Billy Dean, just tell people, City Hall Plaza is not what it was 10 years ago. I mean, this is a whole new...
Totally new.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's been completely renovated, 100% accessible. I mean, just so many incredible things now. We have tons of new programs. Really, the main point of my role was to have some intentionality surrounding that programming and really bringing a vision and a mission to everything going on there. So.
Okay, but before we leave you, though, this job title, does it get any better? City Hall Plaza Engagement Manager. What do you do other than this thing?
So pretty much what I was just saying is just like intentionality, right? We want to make sure that we're not just having events with no purpose. We really want to put the power back into the community's hands so that they can actually scope the plaza, because it's the people's plaza.
Are people showing? I mean, I know there's been Mayor Wu's talked to us about it.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff that's
So
been
much
happening
stuff.
of late. Are people are coming, right?
Oh my God, every weekend.
That's
I hope
fabulous.
I want to see you too.
Well, I'll tell you, this is quite an allure. Tell us about the festival a little bit, if you can, Mo.
Well, this is the inaugural year, and it's in a partnership with the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. And I just think it's a great opportunity to showcase Boston's talents, you know, whereas there were a bunch of venues and places to perform in the city that have closed down over the years, and Boston's history with how they treat hip-hop artists in general or black arts in general.
Well, yeah, speaking of that, can you give us a little history? I mean, I said the Bronx, obviously the South Bronx is where this all started 50 years ago today. What's the Boston history, sort of in short form, in hip-hop?
There's so many, there's a large, vast history here. We're very close in proximity to New York. So, you know, you have your Floor Lords, you know, Edo G is a very big name, Almighty RSO. There's a lot of greats that have performed here, and it's changed, obviously, through the years with young people. But the biggest thing is that we're now being recognized as a great art form.
But within those 50 years, there's a lot of racism in the city. I'm not saying it didn't happen elsewhere,
absolutely.
but particularly here. How much should that stifle the development of hip-hop? You know, 15, 20,
a lot.
30, a lot.
A lot.
That's an honest answer.
There were venues that blocked us out. We weren't allowed to perform at a lot of venues in the city, although they were playing our music on their speakers and stuff like that. So, and you get paid at a lower scale, not allowed to perform in certain places in the area. So,
not to cut you off, Mo, but I was also even told at one point as a performer that hip hop wasn't allowed in that area.
Yeah.
In Greater Boston.
Yeah, the story from BUR talks about hip hop music being banned from different parts, venues in Boston, which I suppose in some ways is not surprising, but it's pretty
disheartening.
Upsetting. Yeah, it's pretty disheartening. And maybe, I mean, when I was reading this week about this being the 50th anniversary of hip hop, I was kind of surprised. I didn't even think it had been, not that I'm a music aficionado by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought it was much newer than that. So it must have been kind of a underground thing for quite a while, Mo, before it kind of burst out.
Well, yeah, obviously, I mean, if you think about your music's not able to be played on TV. They
Right.
won't let it be played on TV, certain venues, certain places. Yeah, it'll seem as if it's non-existent, but it spread across the world pretty fast, you know? So.
By the way, you guys are going to play for us in a minute. Billy Dean is going to, you're performing tomorrow, right? But not here.
Yep.
And they are the City Hall Plaza engagement managers, so come on. So we're going to hear a little bit of Billy Dean Thomas performing Trump versus Biden for a socially distanced live performance at GBH in 2020. Here's a little piece of this.
Yeah, sick and tired of fighting. People just wanna do right, and hopping on autopilot, cause the whole world is divided. Half of the homies is rioting, we need a better environment. I don't know what are our chances, is it Trump or Biden? Sick and tired of fighting, all of my people are dying.
That is Billy Dean Thomas, who I'm going to say it for the third time because I love it. It's the City Hall Plaza. I just can't get over it. Engagement manager.
That was 2020. Here we are in 2023, and it's Trump and Biden. It looks like one more time. So
time for another.
Escape.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you guys, why don't you perform Still Gold? Tell us what you're going to play. When you come back with your colleague, we'll talk a lot more about what tomorrow's going to be like, what people are going to see, hear, eat, and all that sort of stuff. What are you playing for us?
Resisting. We're playing a song off of the album Rock Boyega.
Fabulous. So you want to gently put your headset down, and we'll continue to talk to Billy Dean for a second until you join your colleagues there.
Yeah, well, just talk about, like I said before, I mean, there's been a lot of changes to make as the engagement manager, of course. You would know this. But elaborate more. You said it was more accessible. People could get in there. I assume that means there's fewer stairs and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I know they have a slide. They have
you're responsible for that?
Yeah.
I am not responsible for the slide.
Yeah, a big huge slide where grown-ups get stuck in the slide. You know, it's kind of embarrassing.
Cops' guns are flying off the slide?
Yeah.
So I am familiar with the slide.
Yeah.
I do have to pass it on a daily basis. But there are a lot of kids out there. I will say the water feature is really cool. It's been super hot, so the children have a nice place to play out there. And that's just one of the things bringing people, but I hope that the events are also a motivator for folks to
What's
come.
the water feature?
So it's basically when they have some of the water, like sprinklers, right?
Okay.
For the kids to come
So they
play.
can run in there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Billy Dean Thomas, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Good luck.
both
Hope to
as
see you
well.
again.
Thank you.
Here they are, Still Gold, doing Resisting.
1, 2.
Check. This that sci-fi laser gift that God gave up. BBD's poison that Michael Bivins is made of. Star Wars, me and Boyega with lightsaber. More Deep's voice bleeds between the crossfaders. Hate us, my pen is silly, ain't no The Machiavelli picture was shook through the Few minutes later, bullets hurling through the window. I've been debating Satan about will our souls go? Lord knows, I suppose nobody knows until the end. I pretend I got the dictionary caught in my phlegm. I roll it up, write it up, and blow it up all again. My mic more like machete, I'm about to cough off a limb. It's a funny story, truth be told, don't know where to begin. Kings and queens of Nubians, a dirty boat that threw me in. Chains hang low, a strange fruit blowing in the wind. Prisons are dirty cops of laws that they breaking into racism. Now they pretend like they don't know. I suppose the Lord knows though. She been watching you close. Chose to put you with particular folks. You either sink or you swim, or you adapt and you coast. It's like hands up, get on the floor. Stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting. It goes freeze. Hands up, get on the floor. Stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting. This is death by vapor, but they don't stop with this. I'm picking up the brain a bit. Oh, I'm stopping it. My mind a flying comet, vomits planets in the stars. These quotes are like Mumia's freedom slipping through the bars. Watch the Lord, watch me mollywop the odds on dogs. These days I got plenty filth inside my thoughts. Hot one, Shia LaBeouf with the chicken and sauce. The plant-based faith healer who's collected the stars. This is a 3-stripe Gumby fade. Live on bar, humping the stage. Screaming, keep your eyes on God. This is a church song straight. No skip, no pause, I'm dope. I don't know why, it's just because I ain't no regular, any competitive. I've been the best as ever. This little brother, is heavy with the spit talk. Non-stop, listen to the goat, more beast, more peace, more light. Pop gun stop and watch it ignite. Trauma I got when I walk in the block, ease is when I'm stuffing that pipe. Got to beat up on the knees though. At the time I keep my eyes up. Cause we intelligent, we have to act like the animal isn't inside us. Cause I love to read books, I mean I don't want the gold and pretty diamonds. Bold is bright enough to keep us all in alignment. But it's my environment with the bullets firing. Blood leaking, the crowd screaming and loud sirens. The violence flooding my iris. It causes me to grab a mic and fight like a tyrant. It goes, hands up, get on the floor. Stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting. It's like freeze, hands up, get on the floor. Stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting.
Still gold. Can you guys join us again? Tim, you're joining us, yes? Yeah. That, Still Gold, resisting. Again, the people behind this festival tomorrow, we're hear a lot more about it in a second. Mo Pope now is joined by fellow Still Gold member Tim Hall. In addition, he is an assistant, Tim is, professor in the professional music department at Berkeley, and he is a local musician, spoken word artist, and general artist extraordinaire. Tim, it's great to meet you. That was fabulous, you guys.
Would you like to mention the other members of the band? Who's who? Who's who?
Absolutely.
Yep.
We have the Archetype, here our producer, guitarist, one of the co-founders of Still Gold, Jonathan Ullman on drums, fellow colleague at Berklee College of Music, and Chris Sheehan on vocals.
You know, Berklee College of Music is just like taken off. I don't know how many times we've had people in here in the last couple of years from Berklee College, but every single solitary kind of music.
Well,
right?
who's with us every Monday afternoon?
Well, Emmett G. Price III.
Emmett G. Price
He knows everything there is to know about jazz. His son is incredibly talented. He does this every week in his reverend capacity, but we had him in here in music capacity. I mean, again, like hip hop, 30 years ago, you didn't hear that much about Berklee.
Yeah.
So what happened?
I think time.
Yeah.
I think the individuals who, for me, my band director knew about Berklee. He was encouraging us in high school. I went to an arts high school. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, and I moved to Boston in 2013 to work at Berklee. For me, it was, I've known about it since I was a kid. A lot of educators out there know about it, are preparing, their students to audition and so forth. And just, I think much like hip hop culture, no one person controls it. Community controls it. Yeah. So as individuals start to understand themselves, start to realize what's possible for them, start to have examples of individuals who are successful in the industry that look like them, they see Berklee as an opportunity to, also bring to life their own dreams.
Okay, so fill in some more blanks about the Gold Festival tomorrow in City Hall Plaza. As we know, Mo, you want to do it again? Tell us what people are going to see and hear and eat and all that sort of stuff.
Well, there are food trucks. There are a lot of vendors. The thing is pretty much a family event. A lot of the artists that are on stage we've performed with, worked with, or we are fans of for years. I'm talking about Oompa and Latrell James.
She was here a couple of weeks ago, standing right there, actually. She was.
Latrell James, Key, who we're a fan of, Van Buren Records. There's a lot of great artists in the city, and this is something that we can highlight and love on them a little bit.
Tim, how do you pull us off for free? We love free events.
Well, shout out to the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, Billy Dean Thomas, and them. Absolutely, shout out to, I think it's having individuals like Billy Dean and Cara who are in the office and value people. I think it's more than music. It's about valuing a community of individuals and understanding the importance of feeling welcome in a place that you live, valuing individuals who have miraculously created an art form that has been globally consumed. Hip hop culture is one of the only art forms that have been consumed on a global level. However, there's still a erasure or a commodification of blackness and it's a really interesting, I think, genre for us to live into and be a part of. But at the end of the day, it takes individuals in this community valuing this art form and our people, our community enough to put resources behind it and say like, yo, we're going to center this. We're going to amplify
How do you know the chair of the board of the library? You two were hugging it out before the whole thing. What's the connection?
So I also am a board of trustees for Harvard's American Repertory Theater, and we both are on the board
she's
together.
Fabulous too. So Mo, I asked him this morning if he was nervous about. I mean, you're not just playing. This is a big. You don't look nervous either. What's wrong with you? I mean, are you nervous? Tim said he wasn't. Are you nervous about this? I don't mean performing. I mean,
I'll say I'm not nervous about performing.
Oh, you're nervous.
I'm always going to be nervous about a production. Like,
yeah, it's a lot of work, and we put a lot of energy into it. Really, what it is now is people got to come. You know, if you build it, people will come.
It's noon to 10, so people can come during the day. They can stay all day. Or they can come for parts of it. Yeah. When is Still Gold going to be performing? Is that a secret?
We're performing at 7:30.
7:30. Okay.
Is there a web presence for this if people want to read about the event? Or I know it's
absolutely.
In the Globe. What is it?
It's in the Globe. It's in.
I mean, do you have a website for the event?
State banner.
Oh, stillgold.com.
Oh, stillgold.com.
They can go to stillgold.com.
Okay.
And like huge shout out to Val and Bid Worldwide, because they are the ones who are producing the festival alongside us, and would not be possible. Maybe I'm so chill because of her.
Okay, that's fair enough. What are you performing this time, you guys? What's next?
Again.
Yeah. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure to meet you. Lots of luck tomorrow. Still Gold. Here they go.
Thank you so much.
Again, noon to 10 tomorrow. It's free. The first ever Gold Festival at City Hall Plaza. By the way, I was over there a couple of weeks ago. I have to say it was for a food thing. It was not for a music thing.
Oh, yeah? Did you go on the slide?
No, I did not. It is a totally different place from the unwelcoming thing that it used to be years ago. They really have done a spectacular job, and it's great. In any case, here they are, Still Gold. It's called Again.
I want to say happy birthday to hip-hop. It's really the biggest thing. You know, I don't know if y'all are fans of hip-hop, but I do remember being a kid, listening to Slick Rick and De La Soul and all of these people, and going to City Hall and seeing these bands play was like the greatest thing ever. Put this up in your brain. Recite it back to every neighborhood your people hang. Make these gangbangers maintain the angst and I say thanks, my music helped me pull the trigger, man. And to the dude who's laying down on the ground spilling, I'ma write about you, me and mine will make a killing. Rabble rouse this crowd around, I'll help you catch your feelings. God willing, I'll be winning in the end, brother. To every beat I didn't choose, I hope they cry and suffer. Like a jilted chick that wish I took him as a lover. But he didn't know, this stuff is easy, but I make it seem difficult. It's difficult, it's difficult. Put this up in your ride. Think you better, but your mind's telling plenty lies. Imagination is the highest kite that one can fly. Watch me bubble as you hover around when I arrive. You can scream my name, my name, my name, my name, my name, my name. Yo, my DJ is cutthroat. He pull it back and let it go. Again, 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 again. We roll it up, light it up, breathe it in, let it blow. Do it again, again. Really, for me, it was growing up in Roxbury, Massachusetts. You know what I mean? That's really what it was about for me. One of my heroes at OG, I could walk down the street and see him there. I could look at him. I could envision myself being on the stage one day and grabbing a mic and saying, I could do that too. It kept me off the streets, really. Can I tell you where I'm from? Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, Cambridge. A half an ounce and I'ma bounce with Danny Ainges. I bleed green, my teeth causing these dangers. I'm bumping Savage, smoking dust with headbangers, let's go. I'm in the chateau, lingo out, beats up loud. Words are spilling out my mouth like the wolves is hollering, my speech is a moonlight. I'm with the greasers, we've been beefing, having knife fights. Watch me ignite life, delight mics. The brightest light in the newest zeitgeist. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. My DJ is cutthroat. He pull it back and let it go. Do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. We roll it up, we light it up, we breathe it in, we let it go. Do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again, again, and again, and again, again.
We have been listening to Still Gold on the 50th year anniversary of hip hop. The Gold Festival taking place tomorrow, this Saturday, noon to 10 p.m. at City Hall Plaza. For more information, go to stillgold.com. That is STLGLD. Couple of letters missing in there. Stillgold.com, STLGLD, or navigate your way to the events page on boston.gov. Thank you so much for coming in. That was fantastic. Really after a quick break, we're opening phones and text lines. It is tax-free weekend in Massachusetts, colliding with the official closing of the Christmas tree shops. Are you going buck wild and buying what your Whip-It Good kitchen towels to cash in on the nostalgia and save a whopping 6% on that purchase? It's a perfect storm for the impulsive consumer and all of us. We'll get your thoughts just after the break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. The number to call or text, 877-301-8970. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. People are texting City Hall Plaza, noon to 10 tomorrow. City Hall Plaza, noon to 10 tomorrow. We're now live at
by the way, we had people texting confused about the name because we're saying Still Gold, but again, it's not spelled that way. It's STLGLD.
Correct.
For people who are looking for the website.
Live from the library, we're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. Mayor Wu is here for an hour on Tuesday with us at the library. Andrea Campbell, the Attorney General, is here for an hour with us next Friday. So another annual BPR Chestnut. It's sales tax-free weekend. For 2 days, starting tomorrow, you can live out your wildest Granite State fantasies and buy things right here in Massachusetts without the life-changingly, at least according to Marjorie, 6+% sales tax. There are, of course, restrictions. Nothing over $2,500, that's all still taxed. Food is not exempt, alcohol, marijuana, cars, boats, gas, etc. still taxed. But that new toilet seat that Marjorie wants to buy,
that's right,
you're going to save at least 70 cents.
I'm buying it tomorrow.
It's just fabulous. So we want to ask you, is the annual holiday worth your time? The answer is no. Marjorie says yes. If you're a business owner, does it really help you? Or are people just shifting their buying? They would have bought it today, but instead they buy the exact same thing tomorrow to save the sales tax.
Yeah.
And as a side issue, Marjorie wanted this because it's sentimental with her. This weekend is also the last weekend of bargain basement prices at the great Christmas tree shops before they go away forever. So our number is 877-301-8970. 8970. Are you going to participate like Marjorie is for the toilet seat?
Here's the deal.
In sales tax-free
Here's
weekend.
The Jim. I didn't even realize it was a tax-free
Well,
weekend.
you do
but
now,
I
don't
know.
you?
I'm not just buying a toilet seat. I'm buying,
What are you buying?
a little sink as well because my sister and
How much
I.
is it going to be, like
This has been a
$100?
fraught process
Oh, you
of
saved
redoing the
$6.
kitchen.
That's great.
Oh my God.
Go ahead.
That's not easy
Did
to
you
do.
just cross yourself about the chicken
I didn't cross
kitchen?
myself about the kitchen, but I should because it's been
I think you would.
it's been fraught. People
Okay,
have
fine.
criticized my kitchen already,
Oh,
and
that's very
it's not
sad.
even done yet. But
Oh,
in any
my
case,
God.
the thing you don't get here is that if you're buying something big, like you're spending a few $100, it feels great to stick it to the man. You save some money from the state. You go out and buy a refrigerator, maybe you go out and buy a dishwasher. You buy something.
Would you buy the only way it helps anybody in business is if you will buy a refrigerator tomorrow that you would not have bought yesterday anyway.
That might be if you're buying something expensive. You might not want to buy it now. You might wait another 6 months. You might wait another year. So it's a fun thing,
It
Jim.
is?
It's a fun thing to go out and save 6%. So when I buy my little
Six
sink
point
and my
something.
little toilet,
Yeah.
I will save that 6%. What is it?
6 point something, I don't
6 point some percent in taxes. I mean, why not?
So
I don't
we
know
would-
why you object to these things.
We would like
You're
people,
such a spoil sport.
particularly to call who plan to buy a toilet seat tomorrow, like Marjorie, 877-301-8970. I'm not going to be my usual Debbie Downer here or Jimmy Downer, but let me ask you this. Remember when there used to be display ads in newspapers, like your old newspapers, the Herald and the
Herald
Globe?
used to do it, yep.
So if there was a full-page ad that said, go buy a toilet seat and you save 6%, would you not yawn through that display ad? 30% maybe. 40% maybe, 6%. It doesn't change behavior.
Again, I just think it's an opportunity for people to go out and say, "This is the time I'm going to buy it." Would
You
you
ready
buy
for
it?
this?
What?
How many people are going to buy something tomorrow to save 6% that you would not have bought were it not for the 6% saving? No lying. Raise your hand. Oh, one loser over there. Thank you.
No.
Are you telling the truth or are you lying over there? Is that the truth? Well, that's sad.
There's two
it's a sad
losers because I'm the other one
situation.
right over here. So there's two of us.
Okay, two losers.
Yeah.
There are about all these people here. Nobody has fallen for this except you
that's because
and those two people.
They already have their toilet seats and their sinks, and they're all set as far as that goes.
It's 6.25%.
6.25%. But the other thing is, I mean,
What is
really,
the other thing?
Well, the Christmas tree shops. I mean, they've been around
Oh, that is
forever.
sad.
You go in there and get these cheesy stuff. I mean, you buy these really cheap beach towels in the summertime. These really kind of cheap little signs. These kind of glasses. All those kinds of things.
Remember
are really
we discussed the
inexpensive.
closing of Christmas tree shops when they were announced about 6 months ago, and the guy called in and said the best thing he got were the Whip It kitchen towels.
That's right.
And we thought it was an S&M kind of thing he
No.
was talking about.
No.
They were talking about a whisk.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I knew it after we did the show
So
on it.
sad,
and
actually.
I bought a kitchen table there when I was,
You
when
did not.
I was in my, down on my luck
How
days.
much did that cost? Like $11?
I don't remember, but it tell you what, it didn't last long.
What a shock. That is sort of sad, though. I mean, it's the one right on when you
There's
go to
one
the
right on
Cape.
the Canal Bridge, up when you go
In
to the Sagamore
Sagamore,
Bridge,
yeah.
it's right there. There's one, the Christmas tree shops are all over the place. There's one in Hyannis. I think there's one, isn't there one on Route 1, a Christmas tree shop on Route
I think
1?
so.
Every
By
store.
the way, I don't want to give this away. You want to hear?
What?
I bought you 37 Whippet kitchen towels for Christmas.
I'm very excited about
I'm going
that,
to save
Jim.
like 42 cents.
So Kevin from Warren.
A towel that says "Whip It Real Good." Do you have a Whip It Real Good dish towel? What is a person thinking who sees a Whip It Real Good dish towel? That was not live. That was from the last time we did it. I was incredulous. Exactly.
Okay, Kevin from Warren. Thank you for
Hey,
calling.
Kevin,
what do you think about
what's
the
your
6% sales tax or the Christmas tree shops?
Hey,
one
we're
or the
good.
other?
Thank you for asking. What's up?
Well, I think you're failing to remember that in all the border states along the Rhode Island and New Hampshire,
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't apply to New Hampshire,
Yeah.
but people from Rhode Island will drive over to Mass to save the money to make purchases that they would normally make in Rhode Island.
That's a very good
So
point.
It does benefit a lot of businesses benefit from it.
That's a very good point.
I wish they would have it here. I wish they'd have it here in Rhode Island. I think it would even the playing field.
Wait a second. Rhode Island does not have a tax-free summer weekend? It doesn't?
It does not.
I'm
Nope.
shocked.
They don't think it's worth it. Yeah, we're all shocked.
Well, they don't think it's worth it because it's not really worth it. But Kevin, I
How many
appreciate, I respect
times
your opinion. Thank you.
If you're driving down 95, do you stop in New Hampshire at a liquor store? right?
Yeah.
Because they have those cheaper state liquor stores.
Is
in New
liquor
Hampshire.
exempt from the tax in Massachusetts
No,
tomorrow?
it's
so
not.
what's your point?
But I'm telling you that the theory being that people will stop at the New Hampshire state liquor stores to get cheaper liquor. It's not a huge
By the
difference.
way, you brought it up, so I'm going to say Marjorie did stuff a refrigerator in her trunk.
No, Jim.
Because when you buy tax-free, let me explain this to you. When you buy tax-free in New Hampshire, are you supposed to pay the tax when you file your income tax, Marjorie? Yes or no?
You are supposed to do it.
Did you do it?
I didn't buy a refrigerator.
That is a lie.
You're lying.
Okay, 877-301-8970.
Here's a text. Here's his text.
She bought a refrigerator.
Stores often
Trust me, I
offer
saw it.
10, 20, 30% all the time, but the sales go largely ignored. However, folks jump on the opportunity to stick it to the government to save 6%.
Excuse
I think
me.
that's true.
Were you here like 5 minutes ago when I asked these people how many were going to be shopping?
Well, they're
tomorrow for
unusual. This is an unusual crowd. Very unusual crowd. Everyone's been talking about it. It's a very strange group out there
By the
today.
way, this anonymous texter said, this is the kind of thing that drives me nuts. This anonymous texter says, I'm going to buy 2 toilet seats just to spite Jim.
Yeah.
Well, I can understand that.
I'm very excited. It's gonna, a toilet seats, they're at least $150. It's a whole toilet, not just a seat. It's a whole toilet.
Oh.
Yeah, it's going to be like at least $150, $250.
So you save like $8. And the beauty is, to save the $8, you only have to stand in line like an hour.
That's right.
So it's going to be a great day for you, Marjorie.
That's right.
Wow.
Okay. It isn't sticking it to the man, Marjorie. It's sticking to the United States. It's money that isn't going to going to the state to fund some of the things that you may care about.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's an
Thank you.
excellent
That's
point.
an excellent point.
Okay.
What do you say to that?
She put me right in my place,
I
Jim.
think so.
What can I say?
Let's go to Kim in New
from New
Hampshire.
Hampshire. Hi, Kim.
Hello, Kim.
Hi, yes. I ordered in advance or got the measurements, and I'm buying 6 new windows for my home in Worcester.
You are.
And I'm saving almost $600 in sales tax.
No, you're not.
By placing, yes, I am.
No, you're not.
There you go.
Yes.
I'm so glad you called, Kim.
They're priced individually, and I did the same thing last year with 16 windows and saved $1,700 in sales tax last year when I did this.
Wow. See, there you go. That's big
Wait a
money.
second. So what you're doing brilliantly, when Kim said separately, since you can't do the sales tax exemption for something over $2,500, you buy each of the windows one at a time, so you're eligible for the tax cut, right?
That's correct.
You're a
I
genius.
placed the order, but the
Genius.
supply, the order is each window individually, and as long as each window separate individually
Yeah,
on the
got it.
invoice, it's under $2,500.
So, Kim, let me ask you another question. If you bought 21 last year and you're buying like 30 this year, what kind of house do you have?
Oh, it's a colonial. 16 last year, and it's 6 this year.
Oh, 6. Oh,
Okay.
6.
6. Okay.
Wait a second.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
She's not saving $600 on 6 windows. I mean, really.
They're probably expensive windows.
What, Kim?
They are expensive.
They
Top
are?
of the line Marvin.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Windows are very expensive. I was horrified to discover that
Kim,
a
you
while
put me in
back.
my place. Thank you for the call. Good luck with the window shopping or whatever it is tomorrow. Thank you very much for your call.
The number's 877-301-8970, 877-301-8970. Here's an anonymous texter. The MBTA derailed on my way home from the store. However, I was able to save 6% and stick it to the man.
I think that's for Phil Eng, who was our first guest today. 877-301-8970. Can I say something that is unfortunately going to buttress your argument?
Yep.
I was speaking to someone yesterday for whom I do a fundraising event. I won't say the name of the store. They may not like it. And while this particular person thought it was as ridiculous as I did, and they sell very expensive products, don't ask me what they are, she said it increases their sales dramatically.
There you
I
go.
assume because the consumers are dopes is what they, unlike these people.
There you go.
Do you agree that you got to be a dope to buy into this? Do you agree with that or you don't?
No, I don't get what your problem is. If you're going to buy something that's expensive, like a bunch of windows, how clever is Kim, who has them all listed individually, so she can save 6%
She's like
on
going to
every
jail
window?
for
She's
doing
saving-
them individually.
She saved $1,700.
No, she didn't.
Last year.
No, she didn't.
This time she saved $600.
That's what she says. That's
well,
not possible on 6 windows.
I take Kim at her with their expensive windows, Jim. Mike from Warwick, what do you think? Hi, Mike.
Oh, how you doing?
Good.
I'm sorry, I was shutting my radio off.
That's okay.
We used to come. I had 4 children who went to college. We used to wait for Massachusetts sales tax day to buy computers for them when they went to school.
Well, that's a good one.
We would travel from Rhode Island to Massachusetts to do that.
There you go.
Now, but Mike, don't go away. Here's the key question. I don't doubt that you did that. Would you have bought your kids computers anyway? And all isn't what you did is you just shifted the date of purchase to a day when you could save 6%. Is that not correct?
Absolutely, but it wouldn't have brought the sale to Massachusetts. It would have been either online or in Rhode Island.
Oh, that's actually a pretty
Another
good answer.
great
That's
point. Boy, you took care of him,
Mike. Mike. Thank you.
That was great.
Don't
Call
take any more
anytime.
calls from Rhode Island if you don't mind, okay? Mike, good luck with your kids. Thanks
877-301-8970.
You really buying a
Oh,
toilet seat
a
or
new
just-
texter says, I'm going to buy 2 toilet seats
I just
just
read
to
this.
spite Jim. Did you ever say that
I just
one?
read this, yes.
Oh, we can't say that one enough. I'll say it one more time. Going to buy 2 toilet seats just to spite Jim. Phyllis
By
in
the way,
car.
before we go to Phyllis in the car, raise your hand. You're really buying a toilet tomorrow?
I am.
Where?
In Hyannis.
You
I'm
are.
going down to my sister and I
Making
have
it
my
up. She's
parents.
stuttering. She's making
no,
it up.
I'm going to Hyannis tomorrow. My sister
Yeah.
and I have. I think the place is called Webb's.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Webb's in Hyannis. That's where I'm going
I
to
don't
buy
think
the
so.
toilet seat and the
I
little.
want to see a
thing.
picture of the toilet seat
I'll show you.
tomorrow.
I'll
I'm
send
just
you a
telling
picture,
right
Jim.
now.
I'll send you a
I want to
picture.
see the purchase sale agreement
Okay.
with the store. I want to know that it's new, and I want to see your name on it.
It's
okay?
new. Phyllis in the car. Thank you for calling.
Not buying a toilet. Hi, Phyllis. What's up?
Hello,
Phyllis.
love the show.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay,
What's up?
I have a story,
Go ahead.
and this wasn't even any type of tax sales thing going on.
Go ahead.
You know, like a tax weekend. I was working in one of the stores that sold luxury luggage,
Whoa.
and when the clients found out that that there was tax in Massachusetts, they asked if we could call the Manchester outlet
Wow.
and see if they had the same luggage. Now, the luggage was $500 entry level for a carry-on, and they were buying several pieces.
Whoa.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
So they had us call Manchester.
Yeah.
We held the luggage for them, and they were going to drive to Manchester to save the 6%. But I have to interject one other thing.
Please.
Gas at the time
Yeah.
was $4 a gallon.
Wow.
So when they left the store, the manager said, I think it's going to cost them more in gas than
I
what
love
they would
that.
have saved on the
Yeah,
tax.
Well,
that's
that proves
probably
my
true.
point
That's
about-
probably true.
Forget about it.
Phyllis, you should have turned the people into the state police. Thank you, Phyllis, so much for the call. By the way, does that prove my point? They probably spent $50 on gas, and they probably saved $25
You know,
on the toilet or whatever she said
It's
they're buying.
fun. It's fun. It's like people. Remember they were talking about people driving over the border to New Hampshire to buy things in New Hampshire, the sales tax up
Yes,
there.
I remember
I mean, people do spend. They'll drive in the car. They'll sit in traffic.
It's
But they
illegal.
want to go over there, and well, maybe they're reporting it on their taxes, Jim.
How many people do you know who bought something in New Hampshire who are reporting it on their taxes?
I haven't done a survey, but I'm sure there are some.
Why don't
honest
we ask
citizens.
these people? Have any of you who bought something in New Hampshire ever declared the tax on your anybody? How about that loser woman? Oh, she left. Where are you? Go back to your seat, please.
She's going to meet me at the toilet
Did you
store
pay the
tomorrow.
sales tax when you went to New Hampshire?
Oops.
Turn around. Did you pay the sales tax when you went to New Hampshire and snuck something across the? No, even
No,
she didn't do
That's
it.
okay.
I mean, end of discussion.
She didn't realize she had to do it. She didn't realize.
I think she did.
Who would know?
She is called a scofflaw.
Erin in Brookline, thank you for
We're going to
calling.
have to turn you into the authorities. She's running out of here now. You notice that? She's no dope.
Yeah, for $3.75.
Exactly. Erin in Brookline, what's up?
Well, just a couple plugs for local stores. So I
Yep.
totally have done I bought a rug at Yela in Cambridge, which
Oh.
highly recommend if people want to go there this weekend. But
Wait,
I
is
see
that
the
on
point
Broadway?
about-
Wait, where is that? On Broadway?
Yes,
I
it
bought
is.
I bought a rug
I
there.
think
It's
on
great.
Broadway.
It's a great place. Go ahead.
They're great.
Yeah.
But I will not get stuck on the T this weekend. I couldn't think of anything that I needed was big deal. So I'm going to tootle around my apartment, see what I'm almost out of, walk down to Coolidge Corner, and get stuff that will boost sales for local businesses.
Excellent.
Like
Good for you.
Boston General Store on Harvard. They sell shampoo, conditioner, dishwashing detergent in bulk, and you can bring your own container so it doesn't add to
Oh,
the
wow.
You're a good person, Erin. That is
yeah.
really good.
Erin, that was
is
a great call.
That was
Thank
an excellent
you.
call, yeah.
Listen to this.
Yeah. Thanks, Erin. Good to speak with you.
Michaela is texting, Jim.
Yeah.
I am a kitchen designer. This is what we do for kitchens on tax-free weekend. Each individual item on the order is under $2,500, so it counts. I have someone saving more than $5,000 on their kitchen cabinetry offer. How about that?
$5,000.
$5,000.
You know how much you have to spend on kitchen cabinets to save $5,000 in tax? I'll do the math for you.
How much?
$90,000.
Well, I tell you, I just bought some cheap kitchen cabinets.
You spent $90,000?
No, $25,000.
Wow.
They're cheap kitchen cabinets. You know, the kitchen has not come out as well as we hoped it would.
I'm shocked.
I told you
way,
what my friends are calling it.
What?
Did I tell you this?
No.
So my new kitchen looks like an abortion clinic.
Oh, you did say that. Yeah, that is really
terrible.
horrible.
Isn't that awful?
They mean sterile. They didn't mean that, isn't it?
Yeah.
By the way, Joel in Connecticut, this pisses me off,
I was
too.
brokenhearted.
Joel in Connecticut says, I'm going to stock up on birthday cakes since it's so hard to park. And that's because I couldn't park at Flower Bakery to buy my own birthday cake.
Listen to this.
Sick of that.
Just because of this radio program, I am going to refresh my toilet seats. Buying tomorrow is the extra nudge that I needed. Thank you, Marjorie. So there you go.
That is the biggest pile
Yeah,
of
I think I'm really sorry I didn't wait to buy the kitchen cabinets in this particular juncture.
By
Dennis,
the way, you really... No. Well, that is right. The cabinets
yeah,
themselves, you could have saved the money.
The cabinets, even
So
cheap
why did you do
cabinets.
that?
Well, I wasn't planning ahead, obviously. Dennis from Winchester.
Really sad.
Thank you for calling.
You have 30 seconds, Dennis. What's up?
Okay, very quickly. I saved 15% today by purchasing through Jordan's Furniture.
Oh, because they
Okay.
add to the 6%, right?
Is that what they do?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's smart.
So you have to make a purchase today before the tax holiday begins.
Oh.
So what'd you get, Dennis?
Toilet seat.
I got a mattress.
Got a mattress. Oh, they
that's
do a
pretty
nice
good.
job at Jordan's with the
Dennis,
mattress.
thank you.
They have the person that helps you when you lie down on the
I
mattress.
know that. Do you hear what Zoe said here? Zoe said, I am at the ready to submit Freedom of Information requests to see the percentage increase in toilet sales this weekend from people trying to spite Jim alone.
That's right.
That could be huge.
That's right.
That could
Okay.
actually, the whole audience apparently is going to buy a toilet seat.
We're done.
We should have Jim and Marjorie toilet seats. Would that be huge?
That could be our next giveaway.
Our smug toilet seats.
And you can have your picture
Exactly,
in there
right on the old...
somewhere.
That'd be perfect.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Thank you very much for listening to another
Thank
edition
you
of
for
Boston Public
listening.
Radio. We are done. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our
goodness.
podcast. We have a new abbreviated podcast, a half-hour podcast, the best of the show, put together by our producer, Zoe Matthews. It's really great if you get a chance to listen to it. Anyway, on Monday, Jared and Andrea are going to be in for us. Jim and I have the day off. They'll be speaking
back
with
Tuesday.
Michael Curry from the Mass League of Community Health Centers and the NAACP, former Massachusetts Secretary of Education Paul Revel, BMC's Dr. Catherine Gergen Barnett, and the Reverends Iron Monroe and Emmett G. Price III for All Revved Up. Plus, I forgot about this, the director and lead actor in a bilingual production of Hamlet,
I know, this sounds
put
great,
on by the Apollinaire Theater Company, stage outdoors in Chelsea Square.
You're supposed to say we'll be back on Tuesday.
We'll be back on Tuesday.
Thank you.
I want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, I mentioned her already, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, with additional support from Shay Sullivan. I think this is Shay's
It is
last
her
day
last
today.
day. Shay,
thank
you
you
were
very
fabulous.
much for
Let's
all
hear
your
it for
help.
Shay.
For Shay Sullivan, who's been our intern. I want to thank
Whoa, do you remember the first show she was here for?
Yeah, she had a great idea.
Yeah, what was the idea? It's in your script there.
It is?
Okay, great. She lost it.
Okay.
Trust me, it was a great idea.
Oh, yes. She printed us the perfect BPR talker segment from an article in The Guardian. Armpit Confidential. Why men are now shaving and women are doing whatever they like
Boy,
with
does
their
that
armpits.
fit us.
Yeah, that was a perfect
Shay,
segment
will never
for
be
us.
the same. Shay, lots
Thank
of
you
luck.
very
You were
much.
fabulous.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Special thanks to, I forgot everybody else. John the Claw Parker,
Quick.
who is our engineer, and our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. Special thanks to the BPL team, Brad Lewis, Evelyn Brito, Matthew Glover, and Sandra Lopez Burke. I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Browdy.
Thanks again for tuning in. Hope you can tune in on Monday and have a great weekend.